There we go. Oh, we got stuck there a little bit. Welcome back, folks. Welcome everyone to a very special Lev Remembers Live today. Uh, I got something really special lined up for us. Let's give it a few more, give it a minute or so. Let some more people join. Smash those heart, folks. Hit the like buttons, restack it, resend it, comment. I think today is extremely important. Let Remember His Life from a couple of things. First of all, the interview we're going to watch, I haven't seen this interview in years, like many years. So I do not even remember myself a lot of stuff that was said on that interview. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to watch it with you together. It's a two-part interview. I'm going to give you the backstory to it. Also, it's extremely important for us to understand and why when we watch it and when you see, you'll understand why this is so important to what's playing out today. Playing out today in the Middle East, what's playing out today in Ukraine, and what's playing out today here at home. You're going to get a chance to get a real inside look because when this interview happened. But we're also going to have some interesting guests join us. We're going to have Dean Blundell join us, Dean's family, and is excited to give his views on some of the things that is in that interview. And I also asked Zev Shalev to join us, and maybe we're going to have some other guests that followed me, reported on me, and are now, obviously coming out, and we have joined the same side. And I think that interview had a lot to do with me actually coming out for the first time. But before we get into it, first of all, just a little bit updating on some of the news that's happening around right now. Donald Trump, as a lot of you might have heard of already, that earlier today, one of our Black Hawks got down by Iran. Donald Trump has just come out, put a tweet out that he is going to basically we're going to respond to Iran. So this war is escalating. There is really no ceasefire. All of it, like I said to you, this is strategical back and forth game playing between people like Netanyahu and Putin. Donald Trump is in over his head. He is frustrated. He is pissed off. That's why you're seeing the attacks on Netanyahu, the attacks back and forth, because he has lost control of the whole situation. He has no control over what Netanyahu is doing in Iran. He has no control over what Putin is doing in Ukraine. He is more concentrating on his birthday party that's coming up on June 14th, that he's looking at the White House lawn that has basically got ripped apart and turned into a UFC battle, where we also have a lawsuit that has been filed. So it's interesting to see what happens with that, and interesting to see what happens with that lawsuit, and if they're actually going to continue and be able to have that fight. Also, uh, yesterday was something that we watch play out more and more when it comes to Donald Trump, and that's all about Donald Trump and his administration. Yesterday, they took over Madison Square Garden, not just Donald Trump. You had Jared Kushner there, you had Howard Lutnick there, you had a lot of Trump administration there, basically going in there, taking over, making it about them, not about the New York Knicks, not about the New York fans, not about the New York people. And, unfortunately, the new with Donald Trump there, just like the bad luck that he is, you saw what transpired. The Knicks were on the streak, winning a lot of games, I think 15 in a row. And as he showed up there it goes. New York gave him a response. And the crazy part is the smirk. He didn't even care. He didn't care that people were paying thousands and thousands. I mean, some people were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get in there, and basically had to wait online across for miles long. And the security, just amazing. The watch parties that they stopped at caused chaos, more disruption, and altogether just made it all about Donald Trump. But enough about him, because we're this part of this whole interview is going to be about him. So, folks, I'm going to lead you into and give you the backstory about this interview and what transpired. I'm going to take you back, give you a little story time with Lev, and make sure you guys understand exactly what happened and on that time frame. So we're going to go back to October 9th. Well, actually, I'm going to take you back a little further. October 8th, 2019. October 2008 to 2019, when I was asked by Rudy Giuliani to fly from Florida to Washington D.C., where we had a meeting at Fox Studios. At that meeting, it was me, Rudy Giuliani, it was Victoria Tunzing, it was Joe DiGeneva, the Joe DiGeneva that is now the special counsel here in South Florida, Southern District of Florida, Fort Pierce, that I keep warning you about. And it was John Solomon, and we met with Hannity. We met with other people. We were discussing because the following day, we were all supposed to be flying on a plane to Vienna. On that flight, we were supposed to. And the reason for that was to be able to pick up Hunter Biden's hard drive that was supposed to be handed over, and also to be able to do an interview with Victor Shokin. Victor Shokin at the time was the general prosecutor that was saying that was giving us the information about Joe and Hunter Biden, basically, and that he said that Biden got him fired, and what's his name? Hannity was going to do a whole big interview about it. So that's why Fox was involved. That's why we were setting it up. And oh, you guys, oh, sorry about that. I accidentally pressed the mute button. And that's why we were supposed to be going there. The following day, actually later that night, I got a call from Victoria Tunzing telling me that Joe DiGeneva wasn't feeling well and that they're not going to be able to go on our flight the next morning. The following morning, we met up at the Trump International Hotel. Not met up, we woke up there. That's where we were staying. Me, Rudy, Igor, met up downstairs. We were supposed to be on the flight together when Rudy got a phone call from the White House saying that Trump wanted to see him later on that evening. At which point, Rudy told me that why don't you guys go? Because this was a Thursday. We were supposed to be meeting with them on Monday. Sunday or Monday was supposed to be the interview. The reason we were going a little earlier is because Rudy wanted to go see opera play that one of the oligarchs, Firtash, was setting up tickets that you couldn't get there. So here we are. Rudy turns around, basically says you can't go because he has to go see Trump, go set it up. Me and Igor are now heading over to Vienna. You guys have seen the movie. For those of you that seen the documentary, read the book, know the story. We get arrested on our way to Vienna. The interesting part about that arrest was it was framed by the DOJ in the Southern District as that we were running away, that we were escaping, that we were fleeing the country, and they used that to be able to give us very strict bail conditions, very strict, try to redeem us. Remand us and make sure that we couldn't even get bail. And that's why, as you saw in the movie, that I spent over 12 days or 13 days in solitary confinement under original arrest of espionage. There wasn't even, and not election fraud, espionage, folks. So while this was all going through, we got out, and now I have my legal team in place. Caught you up to speed. I've decided that I am gonna go and speak. I want to speak to Congress. I've me and my wife and Aaron at the time and my family, we and my lawyer, we made a decision that I'm going to speak truth to power. I'm going to come out and I'm going to tell the truth, no matter what it cost me. It was more important for everybody to understand what was going on. So when we tried to reach out to the Southern District of New York, they wouldn't they wouldn't speak to me. And it was interesting because my lawyer at the time turned around to me and said, "Listen, Lev," he goes, "I've been doing this for over 25 years, criminal cases here in New York. And the Southern District of New York has a motto. They say, our doors are open, meaning that they're open to everybody to come in." He goes, "And I'm surprised. This is the first time where they're literally not wanting to listen to you. This is the biggest case, espionage. You're here with the president of the United States, and they don't want to sit down and talk to you to listen to what you have to say." It was something strange about that. Later on, I found out the reason they didn't want to sit down is because folks, slam those hearts. I promise you, this is an extremely important 2 hours that you're going to get information that's going to really open your eyes to what's happening now. And I think it's extremely for a lot of people to know. So if you can, smash those hearts, hit the like buttons, retweet it, send it to your friends. Make sure we get the algorithm going because we also have some special guests joining us. Really, really important information you're going to get today, and you're going to see this is 7 years to the date. We're about 7 years from now, and you're going to see exactly what was said, how it was said, and where we are today. So now going back to it, Southern District didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want to listen to me. They didn't want to hear. They didn't want to know what was going on. I remember sitting with my attorney one of those days, and we were talking, and we couldn't understand what was happening. And I said to him, and I said, Joe, his name was Joe Bondi. I said, Joe, I want to do a live interview. I need to go live because the media was destroying me. I mean, the moment you woke up, the television from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, New York Times, Washington Post, every single, I mean, I'm talking about international, worldwide. My kids couldn't watch TV at all. We couldn't, because anywhere you would turn the TV on, anywhere for like 6 months until COVID, folks, until literally COVID hit, that changed the news cycle. Every single day I was on TV. My face was plastered all over TV, talking about how I was a Russian spy, how I was, this mobster, how I was painting me out to be the biggest criminal, somebody that basically they were trying to discredit, not to be able to go. So the one thing that I would not do, no matter what, is go testify. And if I did testify, to make sure that my testimony wouldn't matter, and then make sure that my testimony wouldn't be looked at, in the same way. They were trying to paint me out to be a liar, a fraudster, a criminal, to be able to secure whatever I said. So when I came out to my attorney and I said, look, Joe, I want to do this. I want to do an interview. Let's start. And, we were getting requests from everybody, from, obviously Rachel Maddow, Anderson Cooper. I mean, every television station around the world, they wanted to do an exclusive interview. They want to talk to me. And I said to Joe, can you narrow it down to the top two? So Joe narrowed it out to the top two, and we were under the understanding, as Joe said to me, look, if you're going to do this, you're going to keep quiet. You're going to sit next to me. I'm going to do all the talking. You're just going to answer a couple of questions. We're going to get the point across. And that's basically the rules, because the Southern District of New York, first of all, does not like when defendants go and speak about, while they're on indictment. Second of all, they're going to watch very carefully what you're saying, and they're going to use every word against you in court. So, no, we're not going to allow you to speak, to do an interview, especially with Rachel Maddow or Anderson Cooper or any of these top reporters. They're going to rip you apart. And I said, Joe, listen to me. The one thing I need to do is, you guys know me by now already, that I'm a little bit different of a human being. I said, look, I respect that and I understand that. And I said, look, I know this is typically what is meant to be, but I need to be able to, people need to hear my voice. People need to understand that I'm not some Russian spy, that I'm an American citizen, that I grew up here, that this is my country, that I'm, good, bad, or indifferent. I made mistakes. I did something wrong. I could see what I did wrong, but I didn't do it because I was trying to hurt our country. I was doing it because I was under a cult impression that I was literally that I thought I was saving our country. So anyway, folks, after a long debate going back and forth, finally we narrowed it down to two. It was Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow. I'll never forget that day when Joe calls me up and he goes, okay, so we have to make the choice. Are you going to go with Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow for the exclusive? And I go, we're going to go with Rachel Maddow, I think. And I said, but before that, let me call my wife. And I called my wife and I said to her, I said, honey, I said, who do I think we should do? She goes, are you kidding me? Is that even a question? Of course, Rachel Maddow. And I laughed because if you saw the documentary, Rachel Maddow was like basically the Antichrist in our house, because she was so Donald Trump and MAGA was, she would rip us apart every day on TV, that basically I wouldn't even allow my wife to watch Rachel Maddow. So it was only, kind of fitting, that we would that if I'm going to do my interview and exclusively and talk about things that I'm going to do with Rachel Maddow. So I'll never forget. We call up. I have Joe. He calls up Rachel Maddow, and we set up the interview. And the interview was going to be, my attorney set up very important conditions of how this is going to go down, because I was facing life in prison, folks. I mean, these people want to put me away from 20 years to life in prison for literally, to this day, what doing exactly what Trump was telling me to do, doing what Woodcock and all of these guys are, and Kushner are doing right now. So long story short, we pick Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow comes down. We're doing it in my lawyer's office, and they set up the whole office. They set it up to take over and set up the interview. Now the interview, and we're about to go into the interview, and I just wanted to let you know, the interview was supposed to be 10 to 15 minutes long. The interview was supposed to be, my attorney was supposed to do most of the talking. I was just supposed to answer a couple of questions. Rachel was supposed to be 15 minutes, and that was the guidelines. What transpired was basically when me and Rachel started talking, you will see what happened. We just basically went just like similar to, when I talk, I let it all out, and it turned into a 2-hour interview. MSNBC ended up turning into a 2-hour interview. This interview, Rachel Maddow got nominated for an Emmy. It was also over, I think, close to 4 million live views at the time on each one. It was their most watched show on MSNBC history. And it was the only time that because they were in the same 9 o'clock spot with Hannity and others, that they all produced them. So it was extremely powerful. And it was basically the prelude to Donald Trump's first impeachment. And that's why it's extremely important to watch, because I think the one thing that Rachel Maddow says, and a lot of people say, and this is why, and I say to this day, if they would have listened to me back then, if they would have listened to me in 2024, we would not be here, folks. That's why I keep screaming loud. That's why and that's why I thank each and every one of you for helping me spread my voice, helping me spread the truth, and helping me stand, when sometimes, like I say, the truth is hard to do. And you're going to see this, because I did this interview, folks, and I'm about to play it, when I was literally, after a few months after my arrest, right after this interview, just so you know, and Rachel Maddow told you guys about, right after this interview, they tried to remand me, meaning they tried to put me back in prison. They lied to the judge. They told the judge that my lawyer lied about certain filings. They tried to say that I was still working with the Russians. They tried to indict my wife, Svetlana, just because I did this interview. So when Rachel Maddow says I did this interview at a major danger to myself, I did. Nobody's ever done that, and you're gonna see it live right now. And I know the I'm trying to drag it out as long as possible, folks, because I know the 5 at live and Dean and Zev are finishing up. They're going to be joining me here also as we're watching. But those that join late will get a chance to rewatch it. And I'm gonna, with no later ado, let it start with part 1 of
and thanks to at home for joining us this hour.
So remember, part 1, I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds to go get your popcorn or your anything you want to, munchies, you want to get a drink, you want to settle down, you want to pull over. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to be able to get. Also, I'm going to do certain Q&A during. I'll be stopping and pausing and giving you, a little background, because it's very special. This is really story time, and we're going to go back and see the importance of it. So smash those hearts while you're watching. Also, make your notes. Take your questions down, because remember, after this, we have a special paid subscriber Q&A that I'm going to do with you. And I'm hoping you guys have questions, a lot of questions, because just think about, what is going on. And I apologize for the background. Maybe I'm going to pause. I'm going to, and not pause, I'm going to mute myself when we start watching it. I know the school is out, kids in the background, and I just got a new mic and it's picking everything up. So I'm going to try to give, but this is some real, this is some historical story time with love, because I'm going to live it live with you and I'm going to go through it. This is literally 7 years ago. I was under arrest. I was facing 20 years to life. The Southern District wouldn't speak to me. Nobody would speak to me. The media was destroying me. And I made a decision that I'm going to speak, and I'm not, and I don't care. And since then, I've been speaking up. So let's start watching this incredible, interview. So I hope you guys learn, enjoy, and I will catch you and the flip side. Here we go.
Last night, on the eve of the impeachment articles against President Trump being conveyed from the House to the Senate for the start of the Senate trial that will decide whether or not President Trump is removed from office. Last night, the committees that conducted the impeachment investigation added a bonus round to the materials that they plan to convey to the Senate. Alongside the articles of impeachment, they added new evidence. These newly obtained documents and text messages from a man named Lev Parnas. Lev Parnas is a Soviet-born, Russian-speaking U.S. citizen who worked closely with President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, on the scheme in Ukraine for which President Trump has now been impeached. The scheme to pressure Ukraine into announcing investigations of Vice President Joe Biden, and the concurrent use of U.S. military aid and visits with U.S. government officials and other things that the Ukrainian government desperately wanted, basically as cudgels to try to force them into announcing those investigations about Biden. Well, now tonight, as the articles of impeachment have been walked over to the Senate by the impeachment managers, actually basically right as that was happening, the impeachment committees in the House simultaneously to this moment released some additional phone records from Mr. Parnas, which have revealed yet further information about who was involved in this scheme and how it worked. Well, today in New York City, I met with Lev Parnas and with his lawyer, Joseph Bondi. And so tonight we are going to present this exclusive interview. Mr. Parnas has never before spoken in a televised interview. He has not spoken to reporters at all since his name surfaced in conjunction with the scandal and since he was arrested on October 9th with a one-way ticket out of the country at Dulles Airport. He was charged with federal felony counts for funneling illegal donations to Republican candidates and campaigns. Now, Mr. Parnas is under indictment. He is awaiting trial in the Southern District of New York. He has pled not guilty. He agreed to speak with me today on the condition that his lawyer, Joseph Bondi, would be seated alongside him throughout the interview. That's a condition that I agreed to. To be honest, because I agreed to that condition, I fully expected that it would be Mr. Bondi, the lawyer, who did most of the talking in this interview. But it did not work out that way. Mr. Parnas, as you will see here, is absolutely here to speak for himself, and he is more than capable of doing so. He and his attorney have made clear in recent days and weeks that Lev Parnas really does want to testify to the impeachment investigation. That said, I can't stress enough that he right now is out on bond awaiting trial in federal court on serious felony charges. So the decision for him to do this interview with me today is very unusual. People in that circumstance in terms of federal felony charges don't typically do media interviews, but they agreed to just sit down with me today and we did it. Let's get right to it. I will tell you just in advance to set the stage that in this interview, you will hear Lev Parnas make some bombshell assertions about the involvement and knowledge of President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence in the Ukraine scandal. He will make a specific allegation about the president's unique role in holding up the U.S. aid to Ukraine as an additional lever of pressure against the Ukrainian government. You will also hear fairly explosive allegations from Mr. Parnas about Attorney General William Barr. He also makes some allegations about several other members of the cabinet. We'll talk about some of those tonight, and we're saving some of those to talk about tomorrow so we can do some additional reporting around them. But on top of all of that, as Mr. Parnas, you'll see, makes clear right off the bat, right at the stop of our interview, he knows that in addition to all the things he is telling you tonight and that have been revealed in these documents in conjunction with the impeachment investigation, in addition to all of that, he says he still has yet more to share. All right, here we go. Mr. Parnas, Mr. Bondi, thank you both for agreeing to do this. I know that this is a leap of trust to speak publicly in this way for the first time. Thanks for both to you for agreeing to it.
Thank you for having us here, please.
Let me ask you first, Lev, did you know that these materials that you had handed over to the Intelligence Committee were going to be released publicly last night? It's landed with quite a splash. It's very provocative material. Were you aware that it was going to be made public?
No, I didn't. It was a very incredible day. I mean, it was a godsend that we were able to, with Joe's help and being able to get that in time, because we didn't think we were going to make it. Because we stayed up till, I think, 2 in the morning transferring over stuff to the House that night.
And what was the deadline in terms of the time pressure?
I mean, Joe...
I think the deadline was trying to get these things to HPSI, the Intelligence Committee, before the transmission of the articles of impeachment. Because with the articles goes the record. And we had reason to believe certain pieces of what we were turning over would be put into the public record. We just weren't sure when that would be. And we had no idea what it would be.
Let me ask you, in terms of what we have seen and what they released publicly, not everything was released publicly, some was held back. But in terms of what we've seen publicly, does it all look authentic to you? Does any of it seem to be doctored? Is it all what you were expecting to see in terms of what you handed over?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Are you still putting together more information to give Congress, or do you essentially feel that the deadline is passed now that this information is going to the Senate?
No, we're going to continue making productions as we get materials from the Southern District and anything that we could possibly continue to find on our own through the cloud or whatever it may be. We're going to continue to provide things until we're told not to.
Lev, why do you want to testify to the impeachment investigation?
I want to get the truth out. Because I feel it's important for our country. I think it's important for me. I think it's important for the world to know exactly what transpired and what happened, because I think there's a lot of things that are being said that are not accurate, and I just want to make sure that they're accurate, because things happen that need to get out, and I think the world needs to know.
What do you think is the main inaccuracy or the main lie that's being told that you feel like you can correct?
That the president didn't know what was going on. President Trump knew exactly what was going on. He was aware of all of my movements. I wouldn't do anything without the consent of Rudy Giuliani or the president. I have no intent, I have no reason to speak to any of these officials. I mean, they have no reason to speak to me. Why would President Zelensky's inner circle or Minister Avakov or all these people or President Poroshenko meet with me? Who am I? They were told to meet with me, and that's the secret that they're trying to keep. I was on the ground doing their work.
In terms of the president and what he has said about you, he said about you and Mr. Fruman, Igor Fruman, I don't know those gentlemen, I don't know about them, I don't know what they do. You're saying that was not a true statement from the president?
He lied. I mean, we're not friends. I mean, when you say friends, I mean, me and him didn't watch football games together. We didn't eat hot dogs. But he knew exactly who we were. He knew exactly who I was, especially because I interacted with him at a lot of events. I had a lot of one-on-one conversations with him at gatherings where they would have special, like these round tables where there would be only 6 people at a table. We've had several of those. And basically, I mean, I was with Rudy more than, 4 or 5 days out of the week. I mean, and I was in constant contact with him. So, and I was with Rudy when he would speak to the president plenty of times. I mean, so it's just ludicrous.
You've been with Mr. Giuliani when he was on the phone with the president?
Absolutely.
And how would you know that he was on the phone with the president? Would it be on speakerphone, or you could just hear it?
Several times it would be on speakerphone, where he would like start the conversation on speakerphone and then take it off and then go somewhere sideways, to talk to him. But a lot of times it would be on the golf course when we were golfing together. Especially, I remember during the Mueller times where Rudy, I remember, said something that he didn't appreciate or was taken out of context, and he was screaming at him so loud. That's why when I watched the impeachment and I saw the testimony about the Sutherland, that I could understand that you could hear President Trump talking next to, like I heard him several times when he was with Rudy.
Because he speaks loudly on the phone.
Very loudly, yeah.
When you say that the president knew about your movements and knew what you were doing, are you saying specifically, and I want to sort of drill down on that, that the president was aware that you and Mr. Giuliani were working on this effort in Ukraine to basically try to hurt Joe Biden's political career? He knew about that.
Yeah, well, it was all about Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and also Rudy had a personal thing with the Manafort stuff, the Black Ledger.
Mm-hmm.
That was another thing that they were looking into, but it was never about corruption. It was strictly about the Burisma, which included Hunter Biden and Joe Biden.
Oh, I can't hear you for some reason. Oh. I could hear you in the earlier version, but I can't hear you now. So I don't know if.
Let me
there.
see.
Now you're hearing. Now I hear you. Hello.
Okay, great, awesome. I wanna pause it there for a second, guys. I want to welcome Zev Shalev, special guest, and I'll tell you why, guys. Zev is very special to this situation, and thank you for joining us, because
Great to be
Zev investigated me when this whole thing blew up, as I was one of the individuals that was, like you see how hard Zev investigates the Epstein files. I was on the other side of Zev, and that's why, it feels so great that me and Zev could now be working together on the same side, trying to get truth out. And I wanted to see Zev join. Zev, do you remember this interview? I know you definitely seen it at some point. Do you?
I have seen it, but it was not recent. So, and this is a while ago, right? I mean,
Right.
for all of us, I went back into my files just to prepare for this, and I was like, oh my gosh, what are we talking? 2021? What is that? What are we talking about?
2020, yeah, right after, literally about 4 months after my arrest, and we just started, so we're just about to get into it, so it's perfect timing. I want to watch a little bit of the clip, and we could talk about some of the things that I mentioned back then that are playing out, how we've come full circle, and how we're here right now. I think it's important, so I'm going to play it. But some of the things that I want you guys to hear and understand there, and that is extremely important, that that you heard Rachel say. The timing, and I give you a little quick how things that are happening now is extremely important. So you heard there that Rachel asked the timing of us getting the information over to HIPSI, to the Oversight Committee. The reason why it was taking, why we weren't able to, why it took us, literally till the last hour to be able to hand it over to them, to be able to get it in the record, was because my co-defendant's attorney at the time, Todd Blanche, the same Todd Blanche that now is the Attorney General here of the United States of America. Todd Blanche was in court fighting my attorney, Joe Bondi, saying that not for the court not to release these documents to the Oversight Committee. Todd Blanche was arguing, saying that the documents should be sealed, that these are national security, and that they should not be transferred over. We won. The judge ruled on our behalf, and we won. And just to give you a little quick story, Joe Bondi, with one of his legal aides, literally drove from New York to Washington, D.C. In a car with air conditioning on, because there was so much information on the hard drives that they handed over that the computer was downloading it, kept overheating. So they had to have the literally air conditioning on, having the no relationship, by the way, to Pam Bondi, guys. Just in case Joe Bondi, Pam Bondi, two different people. For those of you, yeah. So they got it there, and literally within 2 hours prior to the deadline of Pelosi and them handing over the articles. And I'll never forget when they reached out to me and they said to me that we do not have time to go through all of your records to be able to give you some sort of protection against everything. We won't make it into the filings, the deadline. And my option was I had to basically hand everything. It was back then. It was Dan Goldman, who was now he's the congressman, but Dan Goldman was the
Chief, the
attorney.
prosecutor, the questioner, I think.
He was the oversight committee for the Democratic oversight. He was the head legal counsel for the head over. And I remember sitting with Dan Goldman, and Dan Goldman goes to me, he goes, listen, we won't be able to give you immunity on anything. If you hand over all your stuff, it's fair game. You might get indicted and charged with other stuff. And I'll never forget Joe Biden. He's like, we're not handing anything over. I was like, no, let's stop for a second, Joe. We're handing it over. And we handed over everything I had, just so you understand, and over to the House Intelligence Committee, to the impeachment committee, to be able to. And that's why out of all those articles, we were able to get in. But I thought the interesting part for you guys to understand that even back then, Todd Blanche was playing an important part of protecting Donald Trump, protecting the cover-up. And it doesn't go, this conspiracy with Todd Blanche goes back many, many years.
It's interesting for these confirmation hearings as well.
Right.
That'll be really interesting.
And that's why I'm playing this. I think I'm going to even send it over to Raskin and them for them to remember how long he's been protecting Trump and going back 7 years. So I'm going to play it. If there's anything you want me to stop, Zev, just, pick up your hand or just
I got to just say one thing quickly. The truth must set you free, because you look a lot better now than you did then. And I don't know how you do it. It's been a while, and you look fantastic. So good for you for doing that. And I looked at some of my reporting and said, I described you as a real key operative. I think I said you were the tip of the spear of Rudy Giuliani's operation. And in fact, that's what you were. I can't believe we're sitting alongside and we're colleagues these days, because it's a hell of a transformation. So congratulations on that. But let's watch it and we'll talk some more.
Thank you, Zach. Here we go, guys.
It's all about the Bidens. It was never about corruption, strictly about Joe Biden, Hunter Biden. In terms of the involvement of the president here, Mr. Parnas went out of his way to assert that not only was President Trump aware of what he and Mr. Giuliani were doing on his behalf in Ukraine, trying to gin up this investigation to hurt Joe Biden. Mr. Parnas says that the fact that he was working for President Trump is a point that was made explicitly over and over again in a very formal way in his dealings, in his meetings in Ukraine. Your attorney told a federal court in New York that you were both Rudy Giuliani's clients and you were working for Mr. Giuliani in his capacity as personal attorney to the president.
Correct.
Which, by the transitive property, makes it seem like you were working for the president of the United States as part of his legal defense.
Yes, absolutely.
And so did anybody in the U.S. government or Mr. Giuliani actually convey to officials in Ukraine that you were there as a representative of President Trump?
Absolutely. To each one of those officials that I put Rudy on the phone with Minister Avakov several times, Ivan Bakanov, Yuri Lutsenko at the time was the general. The first thing I did is to introduce myself and tell him I'm here on behalf of Rudy Giuliani and the President of the United States, and I'd like to put you on speakerphone for you to confirm him, which we did. We put Rudy on the phone. Rudy relayed to him basically that we were there on behalf of the President of the United States.
That you were there to speak on President Trump's behalf.
Correct, exactly. Those exact words.
Mr. Parnas says that when he was taking meetings to advance this scheme, taking meetings with various government officials in Ukraine, he says it was a regular occurrence. It was the way those meetings started. He would put Rudy Giuliani on the speakerphone in the room, and he would say explicitly, Mr. Giuliani would say explicitly that as the president's personal attorney, he could affirm that Lev Parnas was there at that meeting in Ukraine to speak on behalf of the president of the United States, Donald Trump. In May of last year, May 2019, Mr. Giuliani started speaking with reporters about his plans to travel himself to Ukraine to try to enlist the Ukrainian government's assistance to help his client, President Trump, basically in his re-election effort. He said...
Do a quick pause here to introduce our Dean Blundell, because I know Dean joined us. Dean's my dear friend. He's somebody you guys know very well. He's also my co-host on Coffee and Tea with Lev and Dean. He's also part of the Substack. Make sure everybody give Dean, Zev a follow. These are people that I really enjoy their work, their independent work, and that's why I'm glad they are here to join us. we're actually getting into an interesting part, guys. This is where the whole Ukrainian, this is where the quid pro quo comes in. This is where I'm telling them that this is where Trump stopped the aid. This is where the beginning of the impeachment. This is how it all transpired. We're going in there. And I know, Dean, you got to run. So if there's any comments you want to make now, you want to talk about in a little bit, guys, whenever you have to go, because I understand timing is what's go. We're going to be here for 2 hours playing these. So I'm going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. I'm just grateful to be here. I think one of the things that and I'll be real brief, one of the things that I hope everybody starts to download and understand is this is several years ago, and where we are today juxtaposed to this plan getting put in motion. The plan never changed. And my friend Lev Parnas, who is an award-winning whistleblower, an American hero, and a real patriot, was smart enough to be able to go back 7 years and go, hold it, just a second. Let's see where we are and see how we got here. And tip of the spear, this will feel like deja vu all over again, as they say. And think about today, and then think about what we're playing and how Lev has curated this interview, and what the important aspects of this are that are leaning into, where Donald Trump is with the Putin regime, where he is with Bibi, where he is, and where Russia is, what's going on in Ukraine. And the germination of this, which is fascinating, is again, I mean, this interview they're tarot cards with facts at this point. So that's all I wanted to say, is that I'm very well aware of what's going on over the next 2 hours, and I'm bummed that I can't be here for the entire 2 hours, because this is truly prescient stuff. And I'm really grateful that you're doing this to let people in, because context is everything right now, pal. You know that.
No, I appreciate it. You guys are true fighters. And like Zev said, I didn't even realize it, but I think the timing is extremely important because of, the confirmation hearing that we're about to start playing out with Todd Blanche, how this all plays together, and to show exactly, because remember, Todd Blanche was on the legal team defending Donald Trump 7 years ago in October.
Such an important point.
Yeah. Thank you, Zev. So let's play it. I'm going to play it, and then we'll get back to it.
He said he was going to Ukraine to try to get them to announce investigations into Vice President Biden, because that would be very helpful to his client. In the resulting firestorm of criticism, Mr. Giuliani's trip was called off in May. When he called off the trip, Mr. Giuliani made public statements criticizing the new government of Ukraine, saying that Ukraine's new president was surrounded by enemies of the United States. And for Ukraine, that was a really big deal. Right? Ukraine is a country at war with Russia. It is a country very much dependent on both the reality and the perception of their having strong support from the United States government. And so when Mr. Giuliani, as the president's personal attorney, started making public claims that the new Ukrainian president was surrounded by enemies of the United States of America, and that's why he wasn't going to Ukraine, at that point, the Ukrainian government kind of freaked out, right? That kind of criticism from the new U.S. administration for their new president in Ukraine, that's a potential death sentence for their country. So at the time that happened, Lev Parnas was in Ukraine. He was in Kiev at the time all that happened. And he told me today that he was tasked by Rudy Giuliani in that moment to crank up the pressure on the government of Ukraine, to make even more insistent and obvious and even more onerous this threat and this demand that Ukraine must announce investigations into Joe Biden or else. Did you meet with a Ukrainian official named Sergei Schaefer?
Yes, I did.
Sergei Schaefer is a very senior aide to President Zelensky.
Correct.
It has been reported, as far as we understand from public reporting, that you conveyed to Mr. Schaefer the exact quid pro quo, that you wanted Zelensky to announce investigations into Joe Biden, or military aid would not be released to Ukraine. Is that accurate?
It was a little bit more than that. Basically, the message that I gave Sergei Schaefer was a very harsh message that was told to me to give it to him in a very harsh way, not in a pleasant way.
Who told you to give it to him in a harsh way?
Mayor Giuliani, Rudy, told me after meeting the president at the White House. He called me. The message was, it wasn't just military aid; it was all aid. Basically, the relationships would be sour. That we would stop giving him any kind of aid. Unless there was an announcement made. Well, several things. There were several demands at that point. The most important one was the announcement of the Biden investigation.
Did you also convey to him that the U.S. government would stop showing support for Mr. Zelensky, that they wouldn't attend the inauguration, or that?
That was the biggest thing, actually. That was the main. Wasn't because at that time you have to understand the way Ukraine is. For President Zelensky, winning on that platform, being a young president and not really having any experience, the number one thing, and being at war with Russia at the time, the number one thing for them was not even aid. And I know it sounds crazy, but it was more of a support from the president, by having a White House visit, by having a big inauguration, by having all the dignitaries there. That was the key. And at that time, they were already aware because of their conversations with the embassy that Vice President Pence was supposed to come to the inauguration. It was already discussed, and they were planning it out. They were just working on days that would be good for him. Mm-hmm. At our meeting, I was very, very stern. It was a heated conversation from our part to him, basically telling him what needs to be done. I mean, basically me. And in the conversation, I told him that if the announcement was the key at that time because of the inauguration, that Pence would not show up, nobody would show up to his inauguration.
Unless he announced an investigation into Joe Biden, no U.S. officials, particularly Vice President Mike Pence, would not come to the Zelensky inauguration.
Particularly Vice President Mike Pence.
So the day after that meeting that you had with Mr. Schaefer,
Sunday the 12th.
I believe it was the following day that, in fact, Vice President Pence's visit to the inauguration was canceled.
Well, it was after my phone call. The conversation that I laid out to Mr. Schaefer was basically what I was told to do by Giuliani and the president. And then afterwards, I relayed back to them saying that he's going to get back to me later tonight and we're supposed to meet. Then around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, I text him back again saying, any word? What's the situation? And at that point, because on WhatsApp, you could see when a person disconnects you. And he disconnected me, our conversation. He basically
he blocked you?
He blocked me. And I understood that was a no. So I called back and said, no go. And I remember really going, okay, they'll see. And basically, next day, Pence, to my awareness, Trump called up and said to make sure Pence doesn't go there. So,
Zev, I want to jump in here for a second because I want to really explain the importance of this moment. You know, I wish Olga was here. I forgot that we even spoke about this. You know, I forgot about this whole, but this was the beginning of really show, because Trump and people need to understand back then Trump and Putin did not have a relationship, not like they have now, nowhere near even the relationship between, there was no Kirill Dmitriev back then and Kirchner, there was no Witkoff, there was none of that. It was just the very beginning. And that message was an extremely, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, it was even more bigger than even the aid packages or anything else, because what it told Vladimir Putin by pulling everybody else out of it is that Trump was not going to support Zelensky and anything. And remember, back then, the war was already going on. This was 2016. So, I mean, 18. The war was going on already for 4 years. And Donetsk, he was a new president. And I remember also, Zev, literally standing around next to Zelensky when Zelensky had his first conversation with Trump, when Trump congratulated him on the win. And I'll never forget Zelensky saying, Mr. President, it would be so important for you to visit us. And Trump saying to him, well, I'm not going to be able to make it, but I'm going to send the best next thing. And that was Pence. And I remember Rudy holding that as a carrot.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really significant moment. That your intervention there to basically stop Pence from going to the inauguration of Zelensky was very important at the time. And there's a war going on. It was very important to the world to see a signal from the Trump administration on whose side they were going to be on. And it turns out it wasn't on Ukraine's side by sending that signal. And that leads into the whole Ambassador Yovanovitch, and that whole thing, which led into the inauguration. And there's a couple of, I've got some really cool slides from way back when, which you might appreciate. I don't want to show them all, but maybe I can show one or two.
Yeah, please, please show me.
This is from my research from way.
This is incredible story time. I'm curious myself. Wow, this is awesome, Zach.
So this is the deck that I did for the show that we were investigating you, and I don't know if you can see it there. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
This is that one
God.
moment. Remember this moment? This was a very significant
Wow.
day.
Yeah, this is when Kislyak, when he gave them the information about the Israelis. The Israeli
Yeah.
spy,
So
right?
you,
The
yeah,
information
exactly,
about it. Yeah,
exactly.
that's
And he said,
exactly. Yeah.
that I've got Comey off his back at this meeting. This is the one where he said, I've got the FBI off my back. But, this is also the
Look at
day he met with the foreign
right?
minister.
2017. That's
Yeah.
right.
Holy
Look at
shit.
wow, Zev, this is guys, you are getting some. This is incredible story time. You guys are getting incredible background. I'm definitely going to send this over to the House Intelligence Committee.
And there's a lot of interesting stuff here. It goes into your
Please, Zev,
just
share some.
Some of this is your history with this is
wow.
Firtash and all this circle around Firtash and how connected you were to all these people. And this was the scheme that we uncovered at Narrative. I think we were the ones who did this where there was a $500,000 payment and then a $3 million payment into Pete Sessions
from the Super PAC.
Yes,
from the Super PAC, America One Super PAC. That's right. Giuliani stole $500,000, and Lutsenko wanted to Wow, I love it.
Yeah, and there's a couple of others here about just the history of all of it, but there's some looking ones with your face in it. So there's these. This
is amazing.
This is how Rudy Giuliani was getting all these secret contracts out of Kyiv and Kharkiv at the same time, going back and forth between the two countries and getting deals with two sides of the country.
Can you imagine if people would have just listened? Like, look at this incredible reporting Zev was doing. I was planning on talking. Everybody was planning on, and unfortunately, the Republican, just like same thing happened back then, and that's why I blame both parties. Very important. Mm-hmm. The Republicans were covering it up, and the Democrats. I was not clean enough for them to go testify. I didn't have the credentials. I didn't graduate Harvard or Yale, so I couldn't give them the testimony to incredible. Wow, this brings back memories of Pavel Fuchs. Pavel Fuchs, that's another story with
what a name.
Giuliani. Wow, yeah. I mean, he's
close to Donald Trump. Yeah,
very close
to Donald Trump.
Yeah, and he actually, when the war started in Ukraine, he's an oligarch that was going out literally having his people mark signs where for the Russians to attack. Yeah. Some people asking what year was this, folks? This is 2017, 16, 18.
This is all over 20s. This I think I don't know when the show would have been, maybe the 20s. I don't know, early 20s.
Yeah, this was guys. This is going back. I started working with Trump in 2016, so 15. So everybody was been reporting till I got arrested in 2019. But this is amazing.
These might help a little bit. Yeah, so 2021 probably somewhere around there.
2021 was right after the Rachel Maddow stuff.
Yeah.
This is 2017, January 12th. I see.
Yeah. So this is This is when he was named the cybersecurity advisor, and that was an unusual role. And then
that was incredible. I remember we were cracking when he was sitting across from him. he goes, the funny part, but this is the crazy part. As sick as I said, you know why he named him cybersecurity advisor, folks? I'll give you a little background story to this one. So Rudy had, his own supposed cybersecurity company. The way he was scamming money from different countries, and Pavel Fuchs was one of them. So instead of getting paid money for lobbying, he would go in there and he would try to sell them this, security system, that he was, this cybersecurity network. He would bring people in there. In the meantime, he was selling access to Donald Trump and getting paid, lobbying fees on the pretense of that they were getting a security contract. He actually got a contract from $10 million from Bahrain at one point. It's crazy.
They were basing it on what New York built after 9/11. He supposedly secured New York after 9/11 with their multi-system, sort of multi-agency system that they built there. And then he started selling that after he was the mayor to all these different entities. And here you see that it's actually getting money from both sides of the divide in Kharkiv and in Kyiv. And I think the money from Kharkiv came from Pavel Fuchs, which is Donald Trump's friend. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there was basically a backdoor payment to Trump and his bagman, essentially.
And Fuchs came out later and even said that was a payment to lobby on behalf of, and they just covered it up. Giuliani again covered up. Yeah, wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Zev. That's so.
No worries. I'll send these to you so you have them.
Please, yes.
What's amazing about this is that you uncovered these crimes years ago, and these are crimes that are associated with maybe one of the worst moments in Lev Parnas's life, and he's smiling ear to ear, going,
Yeah, I
"Oh my
know.
God, this is incredible! Thank you so
cameras are
much."
firing.
Well,
But it's the validation of everything you've been screaming
yeah.
about for a fucking
I'll tell
decade,
you,
brother.
I mean,
right?
back then, guys, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I was begging for people like Zev to come out with stuff like that because remember, they took my phones, they took everything I had, and all the stuff I was talking about is a lot of it was coming from memory until until my wife, like my attorney said, went into the iCloud and was able to discover all of the stuff that I was able to validate. So the independent journalism, because the media like was trying to destroy me. I was part, the DOJ was giving them their leaks, that I was this Russian spy, giving them all the bad stuff. The media was trying to destroy me. Nobody would listen to independent journalists like Zev back then, even with the Epstein files. Look how long Zev was reporting on all the stuff on the Epstein files that are now coming to fruition. So it's a perfect example. No, how legacy media, and for how long this has been going on, the cover-ups, the chasing of the Donald Trump, the golden coin and stuff like that. So a lot of just think about how these bombshells, how big this was, and it was just getting lost in the transition. It was getting buried under the news cycle. And the crazy part, folks, think about this. Donald Trump still till this day has never responded to any of this. He's never put a one single tweet about me. He's never did a one single interview. He always says, I don't know who he is. He might have been a fine gentleman. That was the only words. He might not. Is he ever used on me? Think about that, folks. 10 years, I've been speaking out. I've testified in Congress. I've done a documentary. I've written a book. I've done thousands of interviews. I've speak out on a platform. I talk about this, and he's never, even till this day, will not on Truth Social, not on Twitter, none of them. Not you just take a look. Nobody will you will not see not even the Laura Loomers of the world. That is how scared they are to see me get into Congress. I just want to let you know, folks.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How important was Rachel Maddow in this transformation? I mean, she seems like she was able to pluck you out of this terrible scenario you were in and transform your life in some ways.
I think it's not Rachel Maddow. I put it in God's hands. I tell you, Zev, because I really didn't know what's gonna. First of all, this like I told everybody, this interview was supposed to take 10 minutes, 10 to 15-minute interview, and most of the talking was supposed to be done by Joe Bondi, my attorney. I was not supposed to even, but then when we started talking, I just basically, me already by now, I just started talking and I just let it rip.
Yeah.
And it turned into a 2-hour document. I mean, 2-hour part interview. And I'm blessed because I trusted in God that as long as I tell the truth, as long as I do the right thing, that the right thing will happen. And just like the way in the interview, I think she did an amazing job, not only getting the truth out, telling both sides, not sugarcoating me in any way, but showing the true person of who I was and giving me a fair chance to be able to start my road to redemption. And that I think was tremendous. And I think then the going back, then if you look at all of a sudden 6 years later, out of all people, she does my documentary. Like 6 years later, we've never done another interview with her. We've never like really had any. I mean, like literally 6 years later, her first project in her company that she starts up, she does a documentary on me, literally about this whole thing. So I think Rachel Maddow, played a tremendous role in my life, and I thank God and God bless her for doing the right thing, because a lot of people, I trusted myself. I gave them all the information that could have been used in so much propaganda ways, flipped one way or the other, used. And like Rachel says, the documentary could have been told from so many different ways, different stories, from Rudy Giuliani's story, from Trump's, from, Zelensky's, from the Russians, mine, and to be able to, get on. So, I definitely, I owe her a lot for the way she was able to tell my story from the first interview to my documentary. Incredible.
Because you were part of Giuliani's, I called you the tip of the spear of Giuliani's operation, but you were inseparable for a period of time there, right?
No, I was it. It was it was like a bromance, like we say in the document, bromance made in heaven. But it wasn't even so much that we were inseparable. I mean, we were like literally, I can't explain to you. We would wake up. It's like right now we wake up every morning and we, go on here and we talk about what's happening. Think about my life back then. I would wake up every morning and not knowing where I'm waking up. I could be in Vienna one day, UK the other day, Eastern Europe somewhere, and waking up and meeting and having meetings that are constantly, you're on the, it's the stress and the, you're searching for presidents. You're giving these, you're on the verge of like, you're right there. He's gonna, all he has to do is make the announcement and we win. You know what I'm saying to you? We destroy the deep state, and you're right as you do it. And it was incredible. I think out of all of it to watch, the number one person I'll tell you that we thought was going to definitely fold stood up more than anybody was Vladimir Zelensky. Because when we found out he's coming in, because first of all, Igor had relationships with Zelensky prior to it. If he was an actor, he would come and promote, work at Igor's clubs. So Igor knew him personally. He would even pay him. Second of all, Zelensky was associated back then to Igor Kolomoisky, very ruthless criminal, oligarch. So we kind of had felt that, he's going to play ball. He's going to, as soon as he gets in, he's young. Trump's going to, and I'll tell you, I say so that he stood up to us, to Trump, and they were close. I'll tell you, I remember that one time he already, I don't remember if it was who the interviewer was. I think it was Fareed Zakard. I'm not sure. It was on CNN. He was already going to come out and make the announcement. He was going. They already had the announcement said it was going to come out. Yeah,
the announcement that they were going to prosecute Biden.
Yeah,
or investigate Biden's son.
And then at the last minute he canceled. It's interesting, research that, and if we could get Fareed Zakard on there, I'd love to. Maybe even if you could try, we could do something here on this platform. But he came close several times, and the strength to watch how Zelensky stood up to him, because think about how things could have been different.
Yeah. Very different. I mean, this is the story of Zelensky we were talking about earlier, the 5-stack. Incredible what's going on now with Putin being pushed back in Ukraine. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, I want to say I'm going to press play. Dean, I know you have important things to do, so if you have to go, my brother, I love you. Go at any time.
I love you too, pal.
We hear everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to hang out here for a bit, but please. I'm fascinated in this. It's like, you and I have had millions of conversations, as have you and Zev. But these are some things we've just never talked about. So you get a chance to do it with you on Substack. It's incredible to relive this and get underneath the hood of it. But please press play, and thank you for inviting me and allowing me to be part of this today.
Love you guys. Really here we go, guys. Here we go.
So you believe that Mr. Pence's trip to the inauguration was canceled because they didn't agree?
Oh, I know, 100%.
To announce the investigations into Biden?
Well, because there's the chain of events that was the key to where we are today. Because after that, let's take a look at what transpires. Within the next couple of days, all of a sudden they realize that now they get word, because obviously when Pence cancels, they get word that Pence is not coming. So now they realize that what I was telling is true.
Now they realize, when I was threatening them on behalf of the White House that if they didn't announce the Biden investigation, that Vice President Pence wouldn't come to the inauguration, they realize now, when Pence in fact canceled his trip to the inauguration when I said he would, they knew I was legit. It's essentially what he's saying. I love the line there that he quotes Mr. Giuliani saying, okay, they'll see. Like, they'll see what they get for telling you no when you demanded those investigations. They'll see. And in fact, Vice President Pence does cancel his trip to the inauguration within 24 hours. But for Mr. Parnas, that was a key moment for him in terms of being able to continue to work on this effort in Ukraine with credibility, because Mike Pence canceling his trip to the inauguration was a validating moment. It made clear to the government of Ukraine at the highest levels, this is a senior aide to the new president, this made clear to them at the highest levels that Lev Parnas was legitimately representing the president of the United States and the White House in this shakedown. So Vice President Mike Pence has his planned trip to the inauguration canceled after you were unable to get the Ukrainian government to commit to announcing investigations of Vice President Biden. Do you know if Vice President Pence was aware that that was the quid pro quo, that that was the trade, and that that, in fact, is why his inaugural visit was called off?
I'm going to use a famous quote by Mr. Sutherland. Everybody was in the loop.
You believe that Vice President Pence knew that his trip to the inauguration was contingent on those investigations being announced? Again,
I mean, I know he went to Poland also to discuss this on Trump's behalf, so he couldn't have not known.
Let me ask you about this. So that's after the inauguration, September 1st. Vice President Pence goes to Poland and actually takes a meeting with President Zelensky of Ukraine. One of the unusual revelations we've had since the impeachment investigations was a Defense Department email that was made public through a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. That Defense Department email is from the Chief of Staff to the Defense Secretary. He tells somebody else at the Pentagon, don't worry about it, this Ukraine aid, I'm paraphrasing, this Ukraine aid problem is all going to be sorted as soon as Vice President Pence meets President Zelensky in Poland on September 1st. That should clear this up.
Correct.
Do you understand why a Defense Department, somebody working in the Secretary of Defense's office might have believed that about that meeting?
Well, I understand what was going on, so it makes sense to me because what was transpiring was every time, like I said to you, at every meeting, either Giuliani or I would have, or somebody from the Trump's government would have with the Ukrainians, they would always agree that they were going to make an announcement, and then they would walk it back. Mm-hmm. So after certain instances, Trump was supposed to meet him, President Trump was supposed to meet Zelensky in Poland himself. But then he used the excuse of the hurricane, but it wasn't because of the.
By the way, I know, Zev, you gotta go soon. So before you go, I wanted to stop it right there and remind folks. Do you remember that hurricane? Remember he circled that, that the hurricane was supposed the famous pen? With the Sharpie pen. This is the hurricane we're talking about. I'm just reminding you the history behind all of this. He was supposed to go, and this is another thing that they, a lot of people still till this day miss, Zev, how much and how many people were in the loop, and they just focus on that term.
And it's a famous line now for your T-shirts. I thought you made it up, but it wasn't even you.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was Sutherland and the impeachment trial, because remember that he said, he goes, everyone was in the loop. Yeah. And basically, and that's why I think it's important that that a lot of people don't realize that Pence, all of them, even Bolton. That's the crazy part. Till this day, Bolton went there. Bolton, right before Bolton was let go by Trump. One of the reasons Bolton was let go by Trump, that Bolton went because Trump pushed Bolton into going and threatening Zelensky, and Bolton wouldn't do that. Right. So that was the crazy part.
Was it Bill Barr? I mean, you think about Bill Barr's involvement in arresting you in order to silence you. I mean, that was really the.
We're gonna get to a lot of that. Yeah. We're gonna get to a lot of that. But I just wanted to go because I know you have to run by 5:15. I'm gonna play it. If you go, I want to, Zev, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Everybody,
you so much
make sure give Zev a follow. Incredible independent journalism, and we got a lot of more going to work together. But I'm gonna start playing it. Zev, you anytime coming in and out.
Thank you so much. You're great. Thanks so much, Lev, and thanks everyone watching for taking time to learn more about Lev, because it's important. Cheers, everybody.
Hurricane, it was because he was angry that Zelensky still didn't make any attempt or effort to make any announcement before he was going to meet him. And he
How do you know that was an excuse and that wasn't the real reason?
Because I spoke to Rudy. Rudy would talk to me. We spoke about this every day. I mean, everything that was going on was discussed between me, Victoria, Rudy, the team.
So President Trump is supposed to go. He decides not to go. Vice President Pence will go instead.
He sends him instead, and basically he was supposed to go there and get it straightened out that Zelensky was supposed to make another announcement, and that didn't happen. And that's when Secretary Bolton went over there, and I think he has a lot to say. I'm not going to talk on this, but I think he's a key witness to his conversation with Zelensky and when he came back and why he left or got fired, or however you want to look at that.
Just think about what I just said about Bolton right there. I didn't even remember that part, but literally Bolton has a lot to say. That's why till this day I say, if anybody wanted to, and I can't wait. That's why I'm running for Congress. But when we do hold accountability, trust me when I tell you, I'm going to bring in Bolton. Hopefully, and all of us be able to get back to the truth. Because one of the things that's happening right now, that's why I want all of you to pay attention, is right now what's playing out is you got Pulte, Bill Pulte, that has been put into DNI. This is the most breaking news. The reason why he's been put in there is because of this interview right here, because of what happened in 2020, the impeachment of Donald Trump and this whole Ukraine situation. The people in this interview that I'm talking about, like Joe DiGeneva, Victoria Tunzing, these are people that right now are in charge of this investigation with Bill Pulte. So I want you to go back, and this is, if you think about it, if you're going back to 7 years and where that's why very, very important for you guys to think about these, what Rachel Maddow was asking and what I'm answering her, and then play it back and see what's happening right now. Here we go, guys. I'm going to try to play without disrupting it.
Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. When Vice President Pence went over there on September 1st, again in President Trump's stead, you believe, or you have reason to believe, that Vice President Pence was tasked at that meeting with getting President Zelensky to announce investigations of Joe Biden specifically.
Yes.
And to tell him that they wouldn't get their aid until they...
I don't know exactly what he was, but it was all, it's all the same.
The investigation.
Yeah. So, like I said, the aid itself was something that I think the president decided to do, but it was, I think, a reaction to that there was no announcement being made after so many attempts and so many promises.
So holding the aid was the president's own sort of innovation to add to the leverage, to add to the pressure that people like you and the vice president and Mr. Giuliani and everybody else involved in this effort was putting on the Ukrainian government.
Correct.
When you say that Mr. Bolton may have things to say about this, did Mr. Bolton know that Vice President Pence was supposed to secure that agreement from Zelensky, that he'd announced these investigations?
I don't know exactly what Mr. Bolton knew, but I know Mr. Bolton was definitely involved in the loop because of the firing of Maria Yovanovitch. Also, his interactions with Rudy Giuliani. They started butting heads. And he was not agreeing. It was, from Venezuela to Ukraine, Bolton didn't agree with Giuliani on the way of dealing with it. So there was tension there. There was definitely tension.
But you believe he knows what the administration was pressuring Ukraine to do?
Bolton, 100%. He knows what happened there.
Lev Parnas in an exclusive interview with me today in New York City. We've contacted Vice President Pence's office for comment tonight on this allegation that his visit to the Zelensky inauguration was canceled because Ukrainian officials wouldn't announce investigations into Joe Biden. Also, the allegation that Vice President Pence was tasked with getting that commitment about announcing these investigations in his follow-up visit, where he did meet with President Zelensky on September 1st in Poland. We have asked for comment from Mike Pence's office on those matters. We have not yet heard back. We'll let you know if that changes. For his part, of course, National Security Advisor John Bolton has made clear that he would testify to the Senate impeachment trial if subpoenaed to do so. He has made public remarks to the effect that he has relevant information about the impeachment investigation and that he knows things that other people don't know. In terms of the president and this allegation from Mr. Parnas that the president explicitly authorized Mr. Parnas to act on his behalf in Mr. Parnas's interactions with Ukrainian officials, that Mr. Giuliani explicitly told Ukrainian officials that on the authority of the President of the United States, they should listen to Mr. Parnas essentially as a spokesperson for the president, that he was conveying the full authority of the president's legal representation. This allegation from Mr. Parnas, in addition, that the president was fully aware of and involved in all of his efforts to push Ukraine to announce these investigations. We have asked the White House for comment on Mr. Parnas's remarks tonight. We have not yet heard back. Again, we will let you know if that changes. But next, here comes the part about them going after Ambassador Maria Yovanovitch. Stay with us. There were notes that were released to the Intelligence Committee that were now released publicly. And I want to, if you don't mind, ask you about some of these. Were these notes that you took, show them to you here. Obviously, they're on Ritz-Carlton Vienna letterhead. This is your handwriting?
Yes. Correct.
Were these notes from a meeting at which other people were present, or were these your notes taken from a conversation or phone conversation that you were having with somebody else?
This is a phone conversation I'm having with Mr. Giuliani, and basically discussing of certain things that, because after that I would have had a conversation with somebody in the Zelensky team. So I was making notes for myself what was important to get.
And you were in Vienna at the time that you were taking these notes?
Correct.
So this first note, get Zelensky to announce that the Biden case will be investigated. That's Mr. Giuliani tasking you that you should get that commitment from Zelensky?
Yeah, that was always the main objective, correct.
That was always the main objective. Get them to announce they were investigating Joe Biden. That's Lev Parnas speaking with me today in New York City. One of the many dark hearts of this impeachment scandal is the virulent and scurrilous and ultimately successful effort to get the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine fired, Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch. Lev Parnas told me today a lot about that effort, including at one point apologizing for it, expressing regret. But he also made crystal clear why Yovanovitch was targeted the way she was. Do you believe that part of the motivation to get rid of Ambassador Yovanovitch, to get her out of post, was because she was in the way of this effort to get the government of Ukraine to announce investigations of Joe Biden?
That was the only motivation.
That was the only motivation.
There was no other motivation.
If Ambassador Yovanovitch was in fact targeted by Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani and President Trump and others involved in this effort to get her out of post, get her out of the way of the bogus Joe Biden investigation effort, our public understanding of that campaign, which was conducted allegedly for that purpose, our public understanding of that campaign against her took a very dark turn last night when information that Lev Parnas turned over to impeachment investigators revealed menacing text messages from a Republican congressional candidate named Robert Hyde, who appeared in these texts to be reporting in to Lev Parnas about surveillance of Ambassador Yovanovitch, asking Lev if he wanted her out and purporting to have a contact inside her security team who could facilitate such a thing. I asked Lev Parnas about those menacing text messages today. He told me that he did not take Robert Hyde seriously, either in general or in relation to those messages. He agreed that the messages were disturbing, but says he never believed Mr. Hyde's assertions about this purported surveillance, nor did he believe that Ambassador Yovanovitch was in actual danger. Watch. Who is Robert Hyde?
He's a unique. I don't even know how to explain him.
You can say whatever you mean. I can bleep you if you need to swear.
Yeah, he's a weird character. He's a weird individual.
You met him where?
I met him at I think at the Trump Hotel. Yes, the Trump Hotel. He was a regular at the bar.
So we now have your text messages with Mr. Hyde that get into some very dark territory when it comes to Ambassador Yovanovitch. Why did, at least from the string of text messages that we've seen, it seems that it sort of starts, at least what we've got, is you texting him what appears to be anti-Yovanovitch information.
Correct.
Why were you sending him that stuff?
Well, some of the text, they're not going to the beginning of our text message. This was just some of the WhatsApp stuff, which was very little. But Robert Hyde was I don't want to say somebody that would hang around, because he did know all these. He didn't know the president, and he didn't know Rudy Giuliani, but he did know McCarthy. He knew Roger Stone. He knew all these. I mean, because it was like a breeding ground at the Trump Hotel. So every event would be there. So everybody would hang out there afterwards. All the meetings would be there. So it's basically you would see the same people every day. All the same congressmen that supported the president would be there, and nobody else. So he was a fixture on site. He was always there, but he was always drunk.
You struck up enough of a relationship with him to be texting with him.
Well, yeah, it was more of Igor had more of a relationship with him. He just couldn't speak with Igor, so he would text him, because they were usually after we were done for the night. The bar scene was happening, and I don't drink, but so they would hang out, have a drink at the bar. So.
Well, let me ask. I mean, the text messages that he sends to you about Ambassador Yovanovitch are disturbing.
Very.
What is the context of these text exchanges? He appears to be giving you very specific information about the ambassador's movements, about her location, about her security situation, calls her the B word over and over again, very hostile to her, and seems to be monitoring her whereabouts. Why did those exchanges happen? What was he trying to tell you?
Well, I don't believe it's true. I think he was either drunk or was trying to make himself bigger than it was. So I didn't take it seriously, and I was trying to, if you see, I didn't even respond to him most of the time, and if I did, it was like something like LOL or okay or great or something like that, because I wouldn't respond for a long time, and then I didn't want him to get rowdy if I saw him next time and say, oh, why didn't you type a response? So I would just amuse him until eventually, as you could see, I cut him off. Because what happened is when he sent me those, I got disturbed. I was like, whoa, well, this is crazy. Like, is this guy off the wall? So I called up, I think it was Joe Ahern, who was my contact at the Super PAC America First, that knew of him also because he knew all the donors. And I asked him, because I said, well, is this guy off the loonies? And he told me that stay away from him because he's just got into something with, I think, Greg Pence, Mike Pence's brother, and thinking that the Secret Service is after him and somebody wants to kill him. And I don't know exactly what happened, but that was my end of once he started texting me that was our end of our relationship.
Well, the texts where he was supposedly reporting on the whereabouts of the ambassador went on for a week. I mean, it wasn't like one drunk night. This went for 7 days. Well, he couldn't have been drunk the whole time.
No, he's drunk all the whole time. he wakes up and he's drunk. He starts at 6. And I've never seen him not drunk.
So you thought that this was him making it up? You didn't believe he actually had the ambassador under surveillance?
No, absolutely not.
I asked Mr. Parnas several times over the course of our interview if those text messages from Robert Hyde indicated a real threat to Ambassador Yovanovitch. I asked him about it as many different angles I could come up with. I was insistent in asking. He was adamant in his response. So it's clear that you didn't take Mr. Hyde seriously in terms of the factual claims that he was making, but are you clear on whether or not there was ever an actual physical threat or a threat of personal intimidation against Ambassador Yovanovitch?
Never from my side or anybody I know.
You didn't worry that she was actually in physical danger?
Never.
Because you didn't believe Mr. Hyde?
No, definitely didn't believe Mr. Hyde, no.
We contacted attorneys for Ambassador Yovanovitch tonight to let them know about these statements from Mr. Parnas about this possible threat to their client. They are not commenting tonight. But we've got more ahead, including what ends up being a very difficult conversation about the Attorney General of the United States, William Barr. Did Rudy Giuliani tell you he'd spoken to the Attorney General specifically about Ukraine?
Not only Rudy Giuliani. Victoria and Joe, they were all best friends. Barr was, Attorney General Barr was basically on the team.
Small point of personal privilege. One of the weird things for me over the past few months is that right at the time the House announced impeachment proceedings against President Trump, I, right then, that week, was publishing a book called Blowout about the oil and gas industry. And in the book, I used the story that I thought was an interesting sidebar story about a natural gas tycoon named Dmitry Firtash. I used him in my book as the vehicle to tell one story of how Russia was deliberately corrupting countries like Ukraine that they wanted to keep in their orbit, and they were using energy to do so. And then as the book was coming out, none other than Dmitry Firtash was revealed to be one of the forces at work in this corruption scheme in Ukraine to try to smear Vice President Joe Biden and fire the U.S. ambassador and withhold U.S. aid to that country and hurt them in their fight against Russia and the whole thing. It was uncanny. It was totally unintentional on my part. It was like a little bit of an academic news world car crash. But now, today, the Dmitry Firtash factor here has at least become a little less mysterious. Dmitry Firtash, like Lev Parnas, the man who I interviewed today, is under federal indictment. In Mr. Firtash's case, he's under indictment on multiple serious felony corruption charges. He's fighting extradition to the United States. He's currently under house arrest in Vienna. Federal prosecutors in the Firtash case have called him an upper echelon associate of Russian organized crime. The reason I say this got a little less mysterious today is that in my interview with Lev Parnas this afternoon in New York City, he spelled out basically what this oligarch, Dmitry Firtash, was doing in the middle of this impeachment scandal with Rudy Giuliani and the Fox News-friendly attorneys, Victoria Tensing and Joe DeGeneva. and how it all ultimately brings us to the desk of the Attorney General of the United States, William Barr.
So at some point, we had a meeting at our in our BLT office on the second floor, and
at the Trump Hotel.
At the Trump Hotel, and at that meeting with Rudy and Victoria and Joe, John brought up saying that he had some incredible information from the Firtash camp, which later we found out that was, I think, Lenny Davis gave it to him, but that it was basically would show that Andrew Weissman was doing some illegal stuff and offering some deal, and that could blow up this Mueller investigation up the kazoo.
Can I stop?
I want to stop it there for just one quick second because I want everybody to focus in. This is an extremely important part. I could already see where it's going because I don't remember, but I remember the name Joe DiGeneva. I keep mentioning Victoria Tunzing and Joe DiGeneva. Joe DiGeneva, folks, is right now was nominated by Donald Trump and by Todd Blanche, and he is the special counsel here in Fort Pierce, Florida. He is overseeing the case out of basically the case that I keep telling you about that has to do with Brennan, has to do with Comey, has to do with trying to uncover the whole, overturn the whole supposed Russian hoax, has to do with, what's her name, Tulsi Gabbard, if you remember when she was trying to uncover the whistleblower. Now, I want you to listen to my relationship, first of all, with Joe DiGeneva, but also listen to the relationship with Joe DiGeneva, Donald Trump, and Bill Barr, the old Attorney General, and what was going on. So when I tell you about what's happening now, I'm sounding an alarm for a reason. And that is why no matter what, I need each and every one of you, the number one thing, to spread this, what we're doing today, as far as wide as you can. Smash those hearts, hit those like buttons. Today is about spreading this word because, folks, there's nothing better than documented and evidence from 7 years ago. What's happening right now? They can't say that somebody made this up. This is facts, and this is what I want us to be able to, because what's coming down the pipe when CNN and MSNBC and Fox and everybody pundits on all of these Substacks are going to start saying breaking news, we have indictments coming down. I want to try to stop it before it happens. The only way we could stop it is keep spreading the news, keep talking about it, trying to get in their way. So this way, because the more difficult we make it, the more we could do it. So the number one thing I ask each and every one of you is watch right now and share. All of you that are joining late, I want you to know I will be putting out this later. So make sure to subscribe if you can, become paid subscribers. So to be able to get and watch this and see it and comment. After the part two, this is part one is ending. We're going to play part two, and then I'm going to have a special Q&A for paid subscribers. So if you have any questions, write notes. We'll go over them later. But right now, I'm going to get back to it, and let's listen about Bill Barr, Joe DiGeneva, Victoria Tunzing, because this is extremely important.
For a second, so the allegation, as you understood it, was that Andrew Weissman, one of the prosecutors working on the Mueller team, had had an interaction with Dmitry Firtash, who is under indictment by the Justice Department, who's fighting extradition here. And that interaction, Mr. Solomon was saying, would be something scandalous that would discredit the Mueller investigation.
Correct. So we were tasked basically with trying to establish a relationship, and
specifically to get information to try to discredit the Mueller investigation.
Absolutely, yeah. And basically, we went I was given certain documents by John Solomon that would validate to Dmitry Firtash that I was in the loop and that I knew what was going on, because Mr. Firtash is a gentleman that just doesn't see anybody, and it's it's impossible to even get to meet with him. For us to be able to receive information from Firtash, we had to promise Firtash something. Mm-hmm. So for Firtash, it was basically telling him that we knew his case is worthless here, and that he's being prosecuted for no reason. That basically it could get taken care of. That
was your offer to Mr. Firtash,
correct,
that
correct.
We can get this prosecution of you dropped.
Your extradition case, correct? Yeah. So that was basically the situation at that point.
So the exchange with Mr. Firtash was going to be, you provide us information that will be detrimental to public perception of the Mueller investigation. And we, in turn, will get your case dropped at DOJ, so you won't get extradited to the United States anymore.
That's how it began.
Mr. DeGeneva and Ms. Tensing were going to become his lawyers to effectuate this trade?
Correct.
And you were supposed to broker this?
Correct.
And what's this $100,000 a month?
That was expenses for them because
you were supposed to negotiate that this is what they get paid?
Yeah, correct.
And were you getting paid in this interaction too?
That mine is not in there. That was they were getting $1 million plus $100,000 a month on expenses, and mine was $200,000.
And what is this here? What's that next line? Is that the founder of Burisma?
Zlochevsky's Ukraine ledger and the Ukraine ledger. See, yeah, Zlochevsky and Burisma.
What are you supposed to be getting about Burisma and the Ukraine ledger from Lanny Davis and Mr. Firtash?
Well, supposedly John Solomon said that there was stuff in Firtash's case about that.
Aha. So that's why this was all one conversation with Mr.
Correct.
Giuliani. Announcing the Biden investigation and talking about getting Firtash off from this Justice Department prosecution, these were connected.
It was all connected. I mean, it was all, at the end of the day, it was all, the agenda was to make sure that the Ukrainians announced the Biden investigation.
So a conservative journalist, John Solomon, and two Fox News lawyers, Joe DeGeneva and Victoria Tensing, and Rudy Giuliani and Lev Parnas, are all involved, in Mr. Parnas' telling, in an effort to enlist the help of a billionaire, Kremlin-connected, allegedly mobbed-up oligarch to help them pressure the Ukrainian government that they must announce investigations of Joe Biden. And the oligarch and his team tells this motley crew that he can help them with that, with getting that from the Ukrainian government. He can also help them discredit the Mueller investigation. And they say, that'll be great. What we have to offer you in exchange is we can help stop you from being extradited to the United States to face felony corruption charges from the U.S. Department of Justice. The Washington Post just this afternoon reports that Mr. Giuliani's involvement with Mr. Firtash and Mr. Firtash's sort of team appears to be an ongoing concern that appears to be live. Lev Parnas said today that his group's advocacy to get the case dropped against Mr. Firtash did go all the way to Attorney General William Barr. And he says that Attorney General Barr was more widely read in on what they were doing. Did you ever meet with or speak with or have any interactions with Attorney General William Barr?
I personally did not speak to him, but I was involved in lots of conversations that Joe DeGeneva had with him in front of me, Rudy had with him in front of me, and setting up meetings with Dmitry Firtash's team. I was involved in that.
Do you know if Mr. Giuliani was ever in contact with Mr. Barr specifically about the fact that he was trying to get Ukraine to announce these investigations into Joe Biden?
Oh, absolutely.
Mr. Barr knew about that?
Mr. Barr had to have known everything. I mean, it's impossible.
Did Rudy Giuliani tell you he'd spoken to the Attorney General specifically about Ukraine?
Not only Rudy Giuliani. I mean, Victoria and Joe, they were all best friends. I mean, Barr was, Attorney General Barr was basically on the team.
When President Trump and President Zelensky spoke in July, we know from the White House notes of the call that President Trump told Mr. Zelensky that he should contact William Barr about these investigations
Correct.
that he wanted him to do, including into Joe Biden.
Correct.
That struck a lot of people as strange. Attorney General Barr was purportedly upset and didn't know why he would have been mentioned in this context, but it sounds like it makes sense to you that...
Absolutely. Because we knew about the Durham investigation, and that was going to be part of, I mean, that Attorney General Barr wanted to get to the bottom of the Biden stuff and everything like that. I think he might have got upset that Trump talked about the president, ousted him maybe, that he didn't want to be in the public light like he was doing it, but it was known internally that he was investigating the investigators.
Do you know if Attorney General William Barr ever spoke with any Ukrainian officials?
I don't recall at this moment. I'd have to look at my text messages and see.
We contacted the Justice Department for comment on Mr. Parnas' remarks tonight. Spokeswoman Carrie Kupek at the Justice Department did give us a response. It is a two-word response. I guess it's technically one number and one word. She told us, quote, 100% false. And we could attribute that to her. We appreciate the comment. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Today, the impeachment articles were conveyed from the U.S. House to the U.S. Senate. Senate trial is due to formally start tomorrow. One of the awkward revelations in this saga is that while the Intelligence Committee in the House was leading the investigation of the impeachment scandal, it emerged that the top Republican member of Congress on that committee, Congressman Devin Nunes of California, appeared himself to have been connected to the people involved in the scandal and potentially to the scandal itself. Because Congressman Nunes has been publicly very vague and defensive about whether he remembers any of his own communications with Lev Parnas during the time this Ukraine scheme was underway, I asked Mr. Parnas today if he remembers any interactions with Congressman Nunes. Do you know Congressman Devin Nunes?
Yes, I do.
What's been your relationship with him?
We don't have too much of a relationship. We met several times at the Trump Hotel, but our relationship started getting basically where it expanded was when I was introduced to his aide, Derek Harvey. Mm-hmm. And the reason why Derek Harvey was more of, I understood, I was told at that time, is because Devin Nunes just had an ethics, something to do with the next ethics committee, and he couldn't be in the spotlight. He was kind of shunned a little bit, and that they was looking into this Ukraine stuff also and wanted to help out. And they gave me Derek Harvey to deal with.
You told Mr. Harvey what you and Mr. Giuliani were working on in Ukraine, trying to get Ukraine to announce these investigations.
He was aware of that already. He knew everything.
He already knew that by the time he talked to you?
He had a lot of information already.
Do you believe he'd gotten that information from Mr. Giuliani?
No. I think that like I said, there was other people doing like this research or whatever. However, I don't know.
Research?
I don't know what you call it, but it was coming from different sides. Yeah.
Given that interaction that you just described with Congressman Nunes and his aide, Mr. Harvey, does it strike you as unusual or inappropriate that Devin Nunes would be one of the lead investigators into this scandal on the House Intelligence Committee? He's obviously the top Republican on that committee.
I was in shock when I was watching the hearings, and when I saw Devin Nunes sitting up there, and then there was a picture where Derek Harvey was in back over there sitting. I texted my attorney. I said, I can't believe this is happening.
Because?
Well, because they were involved in getting all this stuff on Biden. I mean, Derek Harvey had several interviews, Skype interviews that I set up with different prosecutors, like Nazar Holoditsky, which is the anti-corruption prosecutor of Ukraine, Konstantin Kulik.
A lot of people might not remember who this guy is or what he's about. Devin Nunes was he was an ex-congressman, and he was very much involved in the whole trying to cover up the whole Russian interference and blame Ukraine. Devin Nunes had two aides. One aide was Derek Harvey. Derek Harvey is who I worked with, a general, a three-star general that I was working with in Ukraine. His other aide was Kash Patel. Yes, the Kash Patel that is currently the FBI director. Kash Patel at the time was working very close between Devin Nunes and Donald Trump. That's where the relationship started building, going back all the way back then. Also very important that during the impeachment trial, because the Republicans had control of the House, Devin Nunes was, I think it was because the Republican, I don't even know, it had to be because Devin Nunes was the head of the impeachment committee. And during the impeachment committee, Devin Nunes, still unbeknownst to everyone, was sending letters to the FBI to have me arrested, saying that I am lying to the impeachment committee, trying to interfere with Congress, and that I should be arrested. Meanwhile, I was trying to speak to Eric Swalwell and people like, what's his name, Adam Schiff, to try to get on and testify. Unfortunately, Swalwell ghosted my lawyers, and Swalwell never responded till this day. We never could understand why they didn't want even information. Now we're seeing, obviously, who he is to begin with. But the fact that they would not even speak to me, it was incredible. We were pounding on their doors. Devin Nunes was, but so just understand the other important part why you gotta understand Devin Nunes, why his name is extremely important, folks, is because right now, from what my sources are telling me, and be very, I'm going to be writing about this later on, that Devin Nunes and what's his name, Ron DeSantis are right now in the front running for DNA director, permanent DNA director, and Devin Nunes was, Trump's CEO of Truth Social. So, and for those of you that don't remember who Devin Nunes is, he was he was the beginning of hardcore MAGA. What you see of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and what you saw of all of your Matt Gaetz and all of these people, they came after. Devin Nunes was the original. So I want you to watch this a little bit more, because this is a very important part, because this is coming into play right now. I'm going to press play. Sorry, folks. I'm going to get out of your way here.
One of the major guys that had this whole Biden stuff. So it's hard to see them lie like that when you know it's like that. It's scary, because he was sitting there and making all these statements and all that when he knew very well that he knew what was going on. He knew what's happening. He knows who I am.
Again, Congressman Devin Nunes is the top Republican on the Intelligence Committee, which is the committee that investigated the Ukraine scandal. Lev Parnas says that Mr. Nunes and his top staffer were actually involved in the Ukraine scandal, in the sense that they were involved in the effort to try to gin up a corruption scandal for Joe Biden in Ukraine. Mr. Parnas says he helped them in that effort. We contacted Congressman Nunes' office for comment tonight. We did not receive any reply before airtime. We'll let you know if that changes before we're off the air. Moorhead, stay with us. You raised the issue of Ambassador Yovanovitch to President Trump, telling him that he should get rid of her?
Yes. Well, I didn't say get rid of her. I don't know my exact words if I told get rid of her, but I told him that she's bad-mouthing him and she's saying bad things about him.
Do you actually believe that she did bad-mouth him and say bad things about him, or do you think this was part of this disinformation campaign to make her look bad?
I don't believe it, and that's why I want to apologize to her, because, at that point I believed it, but I don't believe it now after reevaluating and seeing everything that transpired, looking at the documentation again.
I did not expect that Lev Parnas would want to use this interview today to apologize to Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch for his role in the effort to smear her and get her fired, but he did that. That broader context Mr. Parnas was just talking about there is what he says was a personal interaction he had with President Trump, in which he says he witnessed President Trump personally ordering the firing of Marie Yovanovitch. We will have more on that in part 2 of the Lev Parnas interview tomorrow night. We'll also have more for you tomorrow night on what Mr. Parnas alleged today about former Energy Secretary Rick Perry and current Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. We're doing a little more reporting on those allegations and claims. We're looking, in fact, at some of the new information that bolsters Mr. Parnas' case, which was just released tonight by the Intelligence Committee. So again, more on that tomorrow in part 2 of this interview. I do actually, just before I go, want to bring you some news that we just got moments ago while we have been on the air tonight. Just within the past couple of minutes, we got a response from former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani to something Mr. Parnas told us in today's interview. You saw Mr. Parnas say on the air that Giuliani had made introductions for him with Ukrainian officials, in which he told the Ukrainian officials that Mr. Parnas spoke as a representative of President Trump. Mr. Giuliani tonight denied to us that he ever did that. Asked whether Mr. Parnas was speaking on behalf of the president in Ukraine, Mayor Giuliani told us tonight, quote, never. He also called Mr. Parnas a, quote, sad situation. This was one big day. Tomorrow will be another.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC.
Okay, I'm back. All right, folks. So that was part 1 of the documentary. We're going to go into part 2. I'm going to give you guys like a 30-second, 40-second, if you guys want to go to the bathroom, a quick bathroom break. Also, I want to, for those of you that are joining late, I am going to be putting this out. This is a 2-part. Not documentary, it should be a document, but it was an interview basically that should have been 10 minutes, where my attorney basically was supposed to give the background, but when me and Rachel got into it, we started talking. the important parts of this part one that I want everybody to really concentrate on and really take notes on is about the relationship between me and Joe DiGeneva. The extent Joe DiGeneva was willing to go, his relationship with Donald Trump. Folks, I got Joe DiGeneva $1 million contract from Dmitry Firtash, an oligarch that is probably number two in the Kremlin. Relationship to Vladimir Putin. I was the translator on that case. I got paid $200,000 to be the translator. So there's a lot of things I can't talk about even on that case because of client privilege, because so they don't go after me, that there's still yet to be discussed. So what I'm saying to you is a lot more to the story. But if you guys are ready, we're going to start playing part two of this Rachel Maddow interview that she did with me literally a few months after my arrest. And as you could see in part one, everything I said 7 years ago, 5 years ago is playing out to fruition. I've never wavered from my the truth, because the truth is the truth. And that's why all of the people out there that try to tell you something different, they are the liars. And I should tell you right away who to believe and who to stand for, because here facts matter. And this is facts. This is documentation that's never been, not even, forget about, try to be disproven, but never even challenged. Nobody from the White House has ever challenged any of this. Nobody, Donald Trump has never challenged it. He's never sued me. Think about this. Donald Trump never sued me. None of them, none of these people have ever responded. The only response they ever gave to any of the reporters, Rachel Maddow or anybody else, was no comment, or we do not know Lev Parnas. The only person that did sue me it was interesting. I did get sued by Devin Nunes and Derek Harvey. Devin Nunes sued me for $300 something million alongside with CNN because of reporting that I gave CNN on the record. Devin Nunes lost that case and ended up paying legal fees. And then his assistant, Derek Harvey, decided to sue me for $30 million to try to shut me up. And he lost in Maryland because once we showed the documentation, the text messages, incredible. These people, this is what they use, Donald Trump's attempts to sue you, to try to shut you up, to intimidate you. And that's why when I say there's, a lot of us, might want the same thing to get in Congress. But the other thing I say, it's we need people in Congress that know how to fight with these people, that know how to stand up to them and know how to deal with them. And trust me, nobody, and you're seeing it on Friday when we played From Russia with Love. Today you're seeing in the testimony, in the interview that I've given to Rachel Maddow, and later on in the week I have a special, also my testimony in front of Congress, which we're going to go over for you to understand that there's a reason they fear me, and there's a reason why I need each and every one of you to help me, stand behind me, to be able to take back our democracy, because I know what to do. I know the plan. I need the support, and that's why together we're going to do it. So, and for those of you that support me, God bless you. Thank you so much. Continue smashing the hearts. Continue, the likes, the reach stacks. If you can become paid subscribers, means a lot, because it, like I said, have no corporate sponsoring. It's all independent, and that's the way we're going to do it. As you could see from day one, I've always been independent. I've gotten plenty of offers to be able to do a lot of things, and I've never ever stayed away, because for me, as part of my own rehabilitation, and you've seen that when me and Hunter spoke, we all have our demons, we all have our things that we need to rehabilitate. And for my family, for my kids, for my country, for myself, my rehabilitation is to getting to the finish line by speaking truth to power. So I've been doing it at a lot of cost to me, and I'm still doing it today, and I hope you understand and appreciate it, and I know a lot of you do. And that's why, without further ado, I hope you got ready. Everybody's back from the bathroom. Let's play part two of the Maddow interview. This is, folks, going back to 2020. about 6 years ago. This was about 3-4 months right after my arrest. For those of you that are joining late, the reason why I did it is because the Southern District of New York would not listen to me. They would not let me come in and talk. It was, nobody wanted to listen to me. They were trying to seal my documents. Todd Blanche was my co-defendant's lawyer. He was fighting for Donald Trump to be able to stop so I could give Congress over the documentation. We were trying to meet deadlines. There was a lot going on. And I basically, a 10-minute interview turned into a 2-hour Rachel Maddow special that actually later on, with the documentary. And like I said earlier, for those of you that missed it, I am blessed to have been able to choose Rachel and Billy Corbin to be able to tell my story. Because I took a risk. I gave him all my information. Anybody could have manipulated and played it in a lot of different ways. They told the truth, and that's why, like I say, I don't hide from my past. I don't hide where I did. I've never done anything in my life where that crossed the line to such a degree that I can't come back with. Everything else, I think I could, one day come back from and, be a better person. That's why for the past 7 years, that's all I've been doing. And that's, for the rest of my life, what I'm going to be doing. That's what the 12-step program is about. That's what recovery is about. For those of you that know, and that's why it's important for me. And that's why I fight the fight, and that's why I take it so passionate and personal about a lot of other people that, do it because of the clicks or do it, because of the dollars, at a time. And I don't blame them. It's time, everybody needs to make it, but not at a time right now when we need to be able to save our country because, one wrong move here, one slip up, look at for how long and look at what they've been doing. So anyway, enough of me right now. Let's get into part 2 and then I'll pause it and give you some of the comments on there. Here we go.
Thanks to you at home for joining us this hour. Tonight, we will present part 2 of my interview with Lev Parnas. Now, as I said before the first part of the interview last night, and I want to reiterate it now, Mr. Parnas is under federal indictment. He was one of 4 defendants charged in early October with multiple felonies related to an alleged scheme to funnel foreign and otherwise illegal donations to various Republican candidates and campaigns, including more than $300,000 in an allegedly illegal donation to the main super PAC supporting the president's reelection. Mr. Parnas is under indictment. He says he would like to cooperate with the impeachment investigators. He says he would also like to cooperate with the federal prosecutors who have charged him in the Southern District of New York. But he is right now out on bond awaiting trial. And I will just mention at the outset that I am cognizant of the fact that we are presenting the second part of this interview tonight rather than just diving right into some of the other momentous and historic news of today, including the start today of the Senate trial of President Trump. Today marks only the 3rd time in U.S. history that an American president has faced an impeachment trial in the Senate. And it was a solemn beginning today. The administering of the oath to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the administering of the oath to all U.S. senators, all of the senators individually signing their names to the oath one by one in alphabetical order. It's a solemn thing. It's a sobering thing. This is a big deal. And it is worth the massive headlines that it's getting all over the country. It is absolutely worth marking this day in history. It is also worth noting that the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office today issued a ruling that it was illegal for President Trump to withhold aid to Ukraine as part of this scheme, that what he did there was against the law. For that to be arriving today, that ruling from the Government Accountability Office, on the day that the Senate impeachment trial starts. I mean, this is all a big deal. But it's also becoming clear that what happens next in the impeachment of President Trump in this Senate trial may depend in part on the additional evidence and witnesses who are still coming forward as the Ukraine scheme is coming more fully to light. And so, onward. Here's part 2. All right. One of the main questions a lot of different people have asked, I myself have asked and have wondered. Main question asked about Mr. Parnas's decision to give this first public interview is why he would speak out publicly while he's out on bond awaiting trial, right? That is atypical behavior, to say the least, for a federal criminal defendant, particularly one who has a sentient lawyer. I mean, the common wisdom is that public remarks and remarks to the media could really only disadvantage a defendant in his or her dealings with federal prosecutors, right? If you speak out publicly, if you speak to the media, it's gonna hurt your criminal case. That is the common wisdom for all federal defendants in all kinds of criminal trials. So why is Mr. Parnas doing it? Well, in this case, Mr. Parnas says that he has a significant fear of the Justice Department. And specifically, he has significant fear of Attorney General William Barr. For him, that is not reason to be quiet. That is part of the reason why he's making his case now to the public. My understanding from spending a long time with Mr. Parnas doing this interview is that he believes he's safer putting this stuff out in the public sphere than he is keeping his mouth shut, while the Justice Department knows what he was involved in, and they know what he knows, and they have his fate in their hands.
My only objective is to get the truth out, because I never thought I was doing anything wrong. I'm still, I feel I regret certain things that I did because, like, hurting the ambassador, and because that was not something, but it was part of. It's like when you're in a war, you think like casualties and stuff like that. It's bad to say, but it was, and I keep saying it was like being in a cult. I mean, and when they say organized crime, I don't think Trump is like organized. I think he's like a cult leader. And right now, the scary part, and that's what I keep mentioning, and people don't understand, is there's a lot of Republicans that would go against him. The only reason if you take a look, and you know very well because you've been following, the difference between why Trump is so powerful now, and he wasn't as powerful in 16 and 17. He became that powerful when he got William Barr.
Yeah.
People are scared. Am I scared? Yes. Because I think I'm more scared of our own Justice Department than of these criminals right now. Because, the scariest part is getting locked in some room and being treated as an animal when you did nothing wrong. Or when you're not, and that's the tool they're using. I mean, just because they're trying to scare me into not talking and doing, but with God's help and with my lawyer next to me that I know will go to bat for me no matter what, with the truth, and I'm taking a chance. My wife is scared, my kids are nervous.
When he says they're trying to scare me into not talking, Mr. Parnas is referencing something specific, actually, that I asked him about in more detail in a different part of the interview that I'm going to show you in just a moment. But what Mr. Parnas describes there as a sort of, what he says is a cultish environment. Him saying getting out of that cultish environment around the president now makes him regret some of his actions. That thing that he's saying about it being like a cult, that he regrets some of his behavior there, that applies as well to the central claim at the heart of the impeachment scandal, which was this concerted effort that Mr. Parnas was involved in to accuse former Vice President Joe Biden of wrongdoing and to get Ukraine to announce investigations of Vice President Biden. In terms of the information, the allegations against Vice President Biden, Mr. Shokin makes allegations against Mr. Biden. Mr. Lutsenko also makes allegations against Mr. Biden. Do you believe that those allegations were true?
When we were dealing with it, when I was in the middle of the thick of things, I think I was kind of, and I keep saying it's like a cultish environment being around President Trump, because I mean, like, I've been in DC for 2 years. I've never left the Trump Hotel type of a situation. So I truly believed, seeing different information that was handed to us at that time, that Joe Biden was doing something illegal. Not so much Hunter Biden, but more Joe Biden. But after analyzing all the evidence and sitting back and really, understanding what's going on, I don't think Vice President Biden did anything wrong. I think he was protecting our country and getting rid of probably a crooked Attorney General, and people use this to their advantage. A lot of rich people in Ukraine have their own agenda, and they use us here for their own political stuff. So I think this was a big one.
In terms of the material that was handed over to intelligence, on March 22nd, Mr. Lutsenko texts you in Russian, and there's a translation that's provided by the committee. It says, "It's just that if you don't make a decision about Maddow, you are bringing into question all my allegations, including about B." So when he says Maddow, is he talking about
Ambassador Ivanovich?
Ambassador Ivanovich.
Correct.
And when he says all my allegations, including about B, is that
Burisma.
about Burisma and
Correct.
Biden?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if it's Burisma or Biden? I guess it could be either.
It was always Biden. Burisma was just, I mean, nobody cares about Burisma or Zlochevsky. It was, the concern was Biden and Hunter Biden.
In that text message to you, is Mr. Lutsenko saying, in effect, listen, if you want me to make these Biden allegations, you're going to have to get rid of this ambassador?
Oh, absolutely.
And he was he threatening that if you didn't get rid of the ambassador, he might withdraw his Biden allegation?
He actually did. He withdrew it several times.
He wanted Ambassador Yovanovitch ousted for his own career reasons. He had clashed with her in her anti-corruption efforts that had butted up against him and his efforts in
Absolutely, yes.
Lutsenko and Shokin both had an interest in getting rid of U.S. Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch.
Yes, and it's funny because they both don't like each other.
Shokin and Lutsenko don't like each other.
Shokin hates Lutsenko, and even though Lutsenko used to be his underling, but they consider, listen, it's a different environment over there, and it's, unless you live it, unless you do business there, unless you visit there and understand it, bribery, and it's just a way of life. I mean, regular people at the store do it. They'll bribe the butcher to get a better piece of meat, and it's normal, you know, or get better seats at a concert. So it's like a way of life over there. So the way the structure is set up, and that's why everybody's hoping that Zelensky changes it, but I don't know how much he could change with one. So it's like, it's already embedded. This was once you become, in America, it's like you become a politician to serve your country, not to make money, because you can't make money while you're, in Ukraine, it's the opposite. Some of these people pay millions of dollars to get a seat as a politician
because they can use it to make so much more money.
So once they get there, so it's all about the money, and it's all about the power.
Lev Parnas, a key fixer and figure in the effort to fit up Vice President Joe Biden with accusations of wrongdoing in Ukraine, to force the Ukrainian government to announce investigations into Mr. Biden, to force out the U.S. ambassador, Marie Yovanovitch, who was in the way of that effort. Mr. Parnas now apologizing to that U.S. ambassador, Ambassador Yovanovitch. We aired that last night. And as I just showed you, Mr. Parnas also says he now does not believe that Vice President Biden did anything wrong in Ukraine, and that Vice President Biden's actions there, which Mr. Parnas helped try to turn into a scandal. In his words now, he says Mr. Biden's actions were taken to protect our country and get rid of a crooked attorney general. By confirming the nature of his own communications with that official he refers to as a crooked attorney general, Mr. Parnas also makes clear that the removal of Ambassador Yovanovitch was a demand from the key accusers that he and Mr. Giuliani and the president and others have been using to make this false case against Biden. The accusers, including both Lutsenko and Shokin, wanted Yovanovitch gone. Lutsenko explicitly demanded to Parnas that the ambassador be removed, or his allegations against Biden might be a risk. Shokin and Lutsenko wanted Ambassador Yovanovitch removed, in Lev Parnas' telling, because they were corrupt. And she was a force against corruption in Ukraine, and so they wanted her out of their way, too. Think about the collateral damage that was caused not only in our own country, but around the world and in Ukraine by this scheme to aid the president's reelection effort. That gives you a pretty clear sense of what that might be in Ukraine when it comes to anti-corruption.
I want to just stop for a second and just comment on a couple of things. I think they're extremely important that I myself, like I said, I haven't watched this interview in a while. The fact that I keep telling you guys it's a cult, think about this. I did this interview almost 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I've been telling the people out there when I just came out that, like, literally I came out that this is a cult. 6 years ago, I've been telling people that this is a cult. And that's why it's important to understand that, you know, I haven't wavered from what I've said from day one. The other thing I think is extremely, extremely important that I think it's all for you all to understand here, and because there's so much information going on that you need to understand, is something that I said. Rachel asked me a question, and I said to you, and I answered. She asked me, "When did he become more powerful?" And I responded to her, "When he got Attorney General Bill Barr." Now, I want you to think for a second. Attorney General Bill Barr was not his Attorney General at the time. Attorney General Bill Barr was Joe DiGeneva's Attorney General. He was put in there to get rid of the Mueller report. Yes, Bill Barr protected Donald Trump. Yes, Bill Barr weaponized the Justice Department. Yes, Bill Barr is a criminal and is at fault, and probably a majority of the things that why we're here today. But Bill Barr is nowhere near Todd Blanche, because now Donald Trump literally has his attorney general, his lawyer as attorney general. So think about what was going on there, and and that's why it's extremely important when I say, like right now, Todd Blanche has been nominated. He nominated him officially. We're going to watch to see how the Senate plays this one. And the fact that, people like Devin Nunes are coming back into the fold to possibly head up our DNI, extremely dangerous. So I'm going to continue playing it. But these are things, folks, 6 years ago. Think about it. 6 years ago, we were talking about this. And if only they would have listened. If only just think about it. The Democrats had all this information for 7 years before this, even before the Rachel Maddow interview. Before this, I handed everything over to them. They had all of this. They had all this information from the impeachment. They had all of this they could have been using. In 2024, when I begged the Harris team, when I begged the Biden team, when I told them all of this stuff, when they looked at me and when they told me that, Lev, you have no idea what you're talking about. You've never been involved in politics. Just think about if they would have listened. That is why I scream, and that's why I'm so passionate, folks, and that's why I'm running for as an independent, because both sides failed us. It's not about one person. It's about a broken system. We're living in a broken system that needs to be fixed. And that broken system allowed us to have Donald Trump. That broken system is allowing us to have these Stephen Millers of the world that we need to stop immediately. And and I spoke to somebody earlier today. I said, we have an opportunity to fix it now. We have a responsibility to fix it. As American citizens, as everybody in the world, this ain't just in America. We have a responsibility for the future of our kids, grandkids, and the world to fix a broken system that withstood. Because right now, what we're seeing just think about, as bad as Donald Trump, as all this information was out there. Think about that. Just like about the Epstein files, the Democrats had all of this information for all of these years. 6 years. How could they allow Donald Trump to get into office in 2024? Think about it. It's time. Enough is enough. That's why I wear my shirt. Enough is enough, folks. So anyway, enough me talking, and let's continue this interview, because I'm having nostalgia myself. I haven't seen this in years.
President Trump's alleged personal role in trying to remove Ambassador Yovanovitch before she was ultimately recalled. We're going to have more on that coming up this hour as well. But before we get to that, there's one other piece of this that I want to foreground here that isn't specifically about President Trump. It's about another senior member of the Trump administration who, Lev Parnas says, stepped in to play a role in the Ukraine scheme at a very key moment. The new president of Ukraine, elected on this anti-corruption platform, right, engaged in an ongoing war with Russia, he's inaugurated in May. As the new leader of Ukraine, he somewhat desperately needs a show of support, a strong show of support from the United States government that's key to the U.S., to the Ukraine in terms of its fight with Russia, among other things. On the eve of Zelensky's inauguration, Mr. Parnas told me in the portion of the interview we played yesterday that he was directed by Rudy Giuliani, who had spoken to President Trump about it. He was directed to really turn up the pressure on Ukraine, to demand to the Ukrainian government that unless they announced a Biden investigation, the Ukrainian government would lose not only all U.S. military aid, they would lose all the U.S. aid. And Vice President Pence would not come to the inauguration of the new president. Vice President Pence's plans to attend the inauguration at that point were in full swing. The threat was that that would be canceled, that Pence wouldn't come unless they met the Biden investigation demand. We played this portion of the interview last night, but here's just a little squib from it to refresh your memory.
In the conversation, I told him that if the announcement was the key at that time because of the inauguration, that Pence would not show up, nobody would show up to his inauguration.
Unless he announced an investigation into Joe Biden, no U.S. officials, particularly Vice President Mike Pence, would not come to the Zelensky
Particularly
inauguration.
Vice President Mike Pence.
So that conversation, as Mr. Parnas describes it, he says that was in May of last year, May 12th specifically, a meeting, he says, with a top aide to the incoming president-elect in Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky's top advisor. He says that that demand that he made, that they needed to announce the Biden investigation, was rebuffed. The Ukrainians did not agree to announce a Biden investigation, despite the threat Mr. Parnas was making there on behalf of the White House. And when they rebuffed his demand and they did not provide that announcement of the investigation, in fact, the following day, the White House made good on their threat. And Vice President Mike Pence did cancel his planned trip to the Zelensky inauguration. That's as far as we got in the interview with Mr. Parnas as of last night. But the way it went down thereafter is that after Vice President Pence canceled his trip to the Zelensky inauguration, within a few days, the U.S. government decided they would send another senior official in his place. So let's pick up the story there.
And that's when we flew to Paris. And in Paris, we met Rudy. And when we were in Paris with Rudy, that's when I found out that Perry was going to that they decided to send Perry there instead.
Energy Secretary Rick Perry would be going.
Correct.
Did you learned that from Mr. Giuliani?
Correct.
Was Mr. Perry, to your knowledge, aware of what you and Mr. Giuliani were trying to do in Ukraine in terms of getting these investigations announced?
I don't know to what extent he knew about me, because I don't know what he was told, but definitely he knew about Rudy, because he was told, he called Rudy on his way there to ask him what to discuss. And Rudy told him that to make sure to give him the message.
Mr. Giuliani told Secretary Perry, what you need to convey to the Ukrainian government is that they need to announce an investigation into Joe Biden.
Absolutely.
Do you know if part of the message that Mr. Giuliani conveyed to Secretary Perry was also that Ukraine would lose their military aid, they'd lose their U.S. aid if they didn't announce those investigations?
I don't recall them having a specific conversation about that. Okay. It was more of just telling him what he needs to do to announce it. I don't know what other conversation they could have had prior or after, but I know that there was another conversation that Perry called after the inauguration, telling him that he spoke to Zelensky and Zelensky's going to do it.
Perry says, I spoke with Zelensky and I got him to agree.
Yeah,
I got him to agree to announce the investigation.
Yeah, and they did. They announced, but they didn't announce that. See, this was the whole key. They would constantly, every time somebody would meet Zelensky, they would agree, and then they would walk it back. So they announced something about corruption, that he's going to be on a corruption, but that Giuliani blew his lid on that, saying that's not what we discussed. That it wasn't supposed to be corruption announcement. It has to be about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma.
He said the name Biden needs to be spoken, was his insistence.
Always.
They did not want them to announce corruption investigations or anti-corruption efforts. That was not it. It had to be about Biden. They had to say Biden. Lev Parnas alleging that former Energy Secretary Rick Perry, who we know from impeachment hearing testimony, was tasked by the White House as one of three officials, along with Kurt Volker and Gordon Sondland, who were taking the lead for the Trump White House on Ukraine policy, the supposed three amigos. According to Lev Parnas, Secretary of Energy Rick Perry was directed by Rudy Giuliani to deliver the message to the Ukrainian government that they needed to announce investigations into Joe Biden. He says, Mr. Parnas says, that Mr. Perry phoned Mr. Giuliani, contacted Mr. Giuliani, and said that he had been in touch with the Ukrainian president, that he had conveyed the message, and that, in fact, the Ukrainian government had agreed to make that announcement. Now, Secretary of Energy Rick Perry has denied playing any role in this scheme, but he did crash out of the Trump cabinet just as this scandal started to come to the surface. It was October 16th when the Wall Street Journal reported that, in fact, Secretary Perry did call Rudy Giuliani to talk about Ukraine. He did so at the direction of President Trump. The following day, October 17th, Rick Perry tendered his resignation to the president as energy secretary. The day after that,
Oops, sorry. I'm back. Just want to show you, stop it there for a second, so you guys could see again, just like you're seeing everything play out right now. They got caught with their, I came out, I said it the next day. All of a sudden, Rick Perry said, "Oh no, nothing about it." But then all of a sudden, Rick Perry decided, well, let me get out of there. Rick Perry decided to quit right away. All of a sudden, breaking news. Yes, Rick Perry did speak to Rudy Giuliani. The one thing I also want to comment on, and I want all of you to understand, just think about all the accusations I made about Donald Trump. Everybody, just the names, think about the names. And this is 6 years ago. Think about now, and think about the documentary. Think about I wrote a book, right? Think about all the podcasts I do and the accusations and things I say, right? Think about all that. Think about Bolton. He wrote one book. They went after him. He's going to prison, I think, right now. He took a guilty plea. They've never sued me. Donald Trump sues every, what's it called, agency. Donald Trump sues every individual. He sues every journalist that says something about him. They've never sued MSNBC over any interview that I've done. They've never sued Rachel Maddow. They've never sued me. None of them. Not Rick Perry, not Donald Trump, not Rudy Giuliani, not Bill Barr. None of them. The only thing they did was say they have no comment and let the news cycle take over. Think about it. Yes. And then somebody, Betsy, I think, said, and then COVID happened, and conveniently everything disappeared. You're 100%. Even back then, you want to start thinking about this was it, folks. This was the thing. And then all of a sudden COVID took over, and all of a sudden the impeachment, everything just started going away. But think about just common sense, one thing, knowing what you know now. Think about it. Knowing the way Donald Trump now, as vindictive as he is, as mean as he is, as what's it called, knowing the way he goes, think about the fact that he's never sued me. He's never mentioned me. He pretends that I don't exist. I tell you this not because I'm Superman. Absolutely not. I tell you this because I worry for myself every single day. I tell you this because I want to grow such a platform big enough to be able to be less scared, because as you saw in my interview, one of the reasons why I am speaking out is because the second that we stop talking, they will take us apart one by one, and nobody will even know anything about it. They are terrified. That's right, Smokey Joe. They're terrified of discovery. And that is why, by the way, I have a major, major, major breaking news announcement coming for folks soon. So stay tuned. I'm working on something really big. But let's continue. But I just wanted to mention that I was never charged with any criminal charges for lying, or, I was never, sued by anybody for defamation. I mean, these guys sue a 16-year-old for defamation. So just nobody's ever gone on X or Twitter or Truth Social. Never. There's not one. If you go to Truth Social, you will not find one post about me on Truth Social. And that is why a lot of people don't even know that I exist, because that's the whole key to Donald Trump. He doesn't have a problem going after people like Michael Cohen, because he knows Cohen is crooked. He knows he has issues. He won't come after me because he knows, when a person is clean, when I came out, I told the truth. I told everything. You could hear in my interview, and the very thing that Rachel Maddow asked me, the very first question she asked me 6 years ago is, why are you doing this? And I said to her, because I want the truth to come out. To me, it's extremely important. And that is what my mission is all about. That is why I'm here with you on this platform, and why I ask you for your support. That is why I'm running as an independent for the 22nd District of Florida. That is why I'm trying to stand up to them every single day, because truth matters. Because what we've done, what they've done, what a lot of us, and me included, been a part of doing to not just this country, to this world, the division that we deal with. believe me, on a daily basis needs to stop. So I'm doing all of this. I'm trying to replay this because it's time for people to realize where we are and to stop the division and go forward together, unify our voices so strong, so powerful that we will be able to be here because that's the only way. Think about it. We all talk about Hungary. Hungary is a great example. Hungary is a great example, but the only difference is let's not wait 30, 40 years. Let's not wait because it took Hungary a long time to be able to do that. Let's not wait 30, 40 years to be able to do what Hungary did. Let's do it now. Let's learn. Let's learn from those mistakes from countries that allowed dictatorship to overtake them. Let's learn and let's move forward. Anyway, enough of me talking right now. Let's continue this because I'm curious to see where I forgot already about this interview.
October 18th, Secretary Perry announced that he would not comply with a subpoena in the impeachment investigation. Whether he would comply now with a subpoena to testify to the Senate trial of the president, that remains to be seen. We'll be right back with more.
I know that there was another conversation that Perry called after the inauguration, telling him that he spoke to Zelensky and Zelensky's going to do it.
Did you ever have any communications with the counsel of the president, Jay Sekulow, during the time that you were involved in all this?
Several conversations. One in particular, which I would have to refresh my memory by looking at my text messages with him, but it had to do with, I think it was Viktor Shokin's visa or something to do with Ukraine, and Rudy was busy at the time and basically told me that Jay was aware of everything, that he brought him up to speed and that I could call him and he was on top of it.
By that, did he mean that Mr. Sekulow was aware of this effort to try to get Ukraine to announce investigations?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things I think was the best quote ever was when Mr. Sutherland said everybody was in the loop. And that's
you believe that everybody was in the loop?
I don't believe, I know.
Yeah.
I know they were in the loop. I was witness to conversations and, in between them, and everybody was in the loop. Everybody didn't agree with the loop. I mean, Jay Sekulow didn't agree with what Rudy was doing, but he knew what he was doing.
How do you know that he didn't agree with it?
Because I heard them talk about it.
And what was his objection?
He didn't want to be involved in the Ukraine stuff. I don't know what you'd have to ask him what his, but my feeling from the conversations and watching the way Jay approached that situation was he just didn't want to be a part of it, wanted to stay away from it.
You mentioned that you were trying to get Mr. Shokin a visa to come to the United States.
Correct.
Why were you trying to do that?
Well, after the conversation Mr. Shokin had with Mr. Giuliani that we had Skype, they have discussed and arranged that they were going to have Mr. Shokin come here, and Mr. Giuliani wanted to debrief him here in front of Mr. Lindsey Graham and certain other people like the Attorney General.
Because Mr. Shokin was going to say what?
He was basically going to testify and say that Joe Biden basically forced him out because he was going to investigate Hunter Biden and Burisma.
Was the president himself ever involved in the effort to get this visa for Mr. Shokin? In the text messages that were released, Mr. Giuliani appears to tell you he's going to get #1 involved in this effort to get Mr. Shokin into the U.S.
Absolutely.
Was that a reference to the president?
Absolutely.
Did the president ever work on it?
Of course.
Lev Parnas stating that President Trump himself was aware of and involved in efforts to try to bring at least one Biden accuser from Ukraine to the United States to, among other things, brief Senator Lindsey Graham.
So I want to stop there for a second. There's two very important parts here I don't want to miss. First of all, just like Rachel said, remember Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham's been a part of this for so long, and it's pathetic that, he's allowed to continue doing this. But not only, Lindsey Graham is I'm sorry, continue, but that Lindsey Graham was involved in all of this. And I'm going to continue playing this. Here we go.
And Attorney General William Barr. We believe that accuser, former Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin, had his visa to visit the United States blocked by the U.S. Embassy at Kiev because it was the official U.S. government view of him that he was way too corrupt as a public official to be allowed a U.S. visa.
Not only that, the other important point I want to make here is at that point, 6 years ago, people were saying that I was crazy when I was saying these things because saying, oh, yeah, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, is going to be involved himself in getting a visa. Now, 6 years later, think about Donald Trump is involved in making sure the act that what's going to be playing at the Kennedy Center. Donald Trump's involved what tiles they put on. Listen, Donald Trump is a micromanager. Donald Trump was involved in trying to get the visa for the corrupt Attorney General of Ukraine to come testify in front of a corrupt senator here, Lindsey Graham. So think about that. This is 6 years ago, folks. Here we go. I'm going to continue playing it, and I'm going to let you continue listening.
But it's also noteworthy that Mr. Parnas says that he believes that counsel to the president, Jay Sekulow, was aware of everything that was going on in this Ukraine scheme, but that he disapproved of it. In Mr. Parnas's words, he said that Mr. Sekulow wanted to stay away from all this stuff involving Ukraine. I should note at this point that Mr. Sekulow is expected to be one of the main defense counsels for President Trump in his impeachment trial, which convened today in the Senate. I should also note that Mr. Parnas says Mr. Sekulow was, however much he disapproved of the whole Ukraine scheme, he says Mr. Sekulow was directly involved in advising him not to cooperate with the investigation into the Ukraine scheme and with signing him up with some other lawyers who Lev ultimately fired, but who also told him not to cooperate with the investigation into Ukraine. How did you end up with Mr. Downing and Mr. Dowd representing you when the impeachment inquiry had contacted you for testimony?
It's a good question, Rachel. First of all, what happened was we were in Vienna when we got notified that we had a congressional request. Yeah. And I was there with Victoria Tunzing and Joe DeGeneres working on the Dimitri Firtash case. And the first people I came to was them and said, what do I do? They said, call Rudy. I called Rudy and said, what do we do? How do we, Rudy's first response was, don't worry about it. Forget it. I was like, what do you mean don't worry about it? We need an attorney. Please help me get an attorney. Rudy came back and said, I have great, John Dowd. And we're like, okay, we got excited because I didn't know who John Dowd was, but I knew he was the president's attorney. So it was a very, exciting situation, even though it was, all this going on. It's still, like in the Looney Tunes. But I called John Dowd, introduced myself, like Rudy connected us. And at first everything was good. And then like about 15 minutes later, I get a call from him saying, we have a problem that I'm not going to probably be able to represent you. I said, what happened? He goes, I've been speaking with Jay Sekulow and, because I was the president's attorney and I'm still kind of doing work for the president, there's a conflict of interest unless he wants to waive it. And I don't think the president's going to waive that conflict. Because at that point, John Dowd didn't know who I was also. He didn't think I had any relationship with the president. And I responded to him, I said, I think he will. I said,
you think the president will waive the conflict and let Dowd represent you?
Absolutely. I said, give Rudy a call. I'm sure we could work this out, I said, because this is very important. About 15, 20 minutes later, I got a call back from John Dowd. He said, you're one lucky guy. I just got a call from Jay Sekulow. I got the permission, and I'm getting it in writing shortly.
You are one lucky guy. I just want to interrupt here for a moment to show you that, in fact, what Mr. Parnas is talking about here is corroborated by some of the documentation that he has handed over to the House Intelligence Committee. This letter from Jay Sekulow saying that Jay Sekulow, got President Trump's express permission for Lev Parnas to be represented legally by John Dowd. That was, in fact, a letter that Mr. Parnas turned over to the impeachment investigators and now has been conveyed to the Senate. So Jay Sekulow says, I have talked to the president about you, Lev Parnas, and I have received his permission to let you use John Dowd as your lawyer. Mr. Parnas thinks he is very lucky. This is great. It shows that the president is willing to help him out. It also shows he's getting the president's lawyer, which is wonderful. Mr. Parnas went on to say in the interview that he was advised by his new lawyer, who he's very excited about, John Dowd, in consultation with Jay Sekulow at the White House and Rudy Giuliani, that he should not cooperate with the investigation into Ukraine, the impeachment investigation that's brewing in Congress. He's been asked by the impeachment investigators to give information. He says he is advised by his new legal team in communication with the White House, with the president's counsel, Jay Sekulow, that he shouldn't cooperate, even though he says he personally would have been happy to. You got a request from Congress to come for you and Mr. Fruman to come testify to the impeachment investigation.
Yes.
You were inclined to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I had nothing to hide. We're not doing anything illegal.
Your lawyer, John Dowd, however, advised you not to cooperate and said the president would give you cover for not cooperating?
Well, it was a little bit more than that. It was I was brought into John Dowd's house, and he got Jay Sekulow on the phone, and also Rudy and Victoria's, and then basically they came up with a situation that said that because I worked for Rudy and because I worked for Victoria and because Rudy worked for the president, we had three-way privilege, and that basically Pat Ciccone was going to be writing a letter to Congress telling him that nobody's cooperating, and that would protect us under the same order, and he would follow up with that. Again, this was the President of the United States, so I mean, I thought, okay. I said, here's all the information I have. I did my duty. I gave him whatever paperwork I had.
Mr. Parnas says that he disagreed with this decision to not cooperate with the congressional investigation into the Ukraine scheme. He said he was inclined to hand over whatever he had, but he says the president himself approved Mr. Parnas using this lawyer who the president himself had used, Mr. Dowd. Mr. Sekulow in the White House was part of the team giving him advice that he should not cooperate. He figured it was probably fine. Since, I mean, all of this appeared to be coming down to him from the president of the United States and all of these people who worked with the president. But then Lev Parnas got arrested. And that's when things went quite pear-shaped. Mr. Dowd was your attorney for a time, and then you changed attorneys.
I fired him in jail.
You fired him when you were in jail?
Yes.
What happened there?
And Mr. Downing. Basically, when we were arrested, obviously I had nowhere else to call. I didn't know. We just retained Dowd and Downing. So I called Downing to come there. And I started seeing in the process of the bail stuff, the way things were going on, that they were more concentrating on, I didn't feel that they were trying to get me out. And at that point, I had a meeting with John Dowd and Downing inside the jail. And John Dowd just, instead of comforting me and, you know, trying to calm me down, telling me like it's going to be okay, like don't worry, basically start talking to me like a drill sergeant and telling me, giving me orders, like, you know, like be a good boy, like, you know.
He said be a good boy?
No, like I don't want to quote him exactly on what the words, what he used in that, because it was a while ago and I don't remember exactly, but it was his condescending attitude towards basically like, who do you think you are, you know, telling the president or Giuliani or anybody to like come out. And because one of the things I said, I can't believe nobody's coming out in our defense and saying like we didn't do like wrong, we're good citizens, that, you know, we work. And basically word for word, and then I said, if you don't get out of here right now, something bad's going to happen, because I don't want to see the two of you. And at that point, Downing hit the emergency button, and the security took me out and took them out.
So this is a very heated confrontation. You told Downing and Dowd to get out.
I threw them out.
Were they telling you to sacrifice yourself in order to protect the president?
That's what I felt.
Is the implication of this story of the lawyers that you feel that people loyal to the president and close to the president were trying to influence your defense and your case in a way that was against your interests but in the president's interests?
Absolutely. I think they try to keep me quiet.
Lev Parnas, again, should be noted, is out on bond awaiting trial on multiple felony counts for allegedly funneling foreign and otherwise illegal donations to Republican candidates and campaigns, including the super PAC that is supporting President Trump's re-election effort. In terms of the lawyers he was talking about here, Kevin Downing was the main defense lawyer for the president's campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, who is currently serving more than 7 years in federal prison. John Dowd was one of the president's defense counsels on the Russia investigation. Both Mr. Downing and Mr. Dowd have since been fired by Lev Parnas in the situation that you just heard him describe there, that jailhouse confrontation. As for Jay Sekulow, the gentleman on your right side of your screen here, he will be representing President Trump as one of his defense counsels in the U.S. Senate in the president's impeachment trial. Speaking of the president, more ahead. We've got one last piece of the Lev Parnas interview to bring you tonight, and it is one that, I'll tell you in advance, it raises more questions than it answers. The person who can answer those questions is not Lev Parnas, however, but rather Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, or perhaps other State Department officials who know about the actions of Secretary Pompeo and the State Department at this time. When you hear people gnash their teeth about the fact that the administration hasn't handed over any documents to the impeachment investigation, that the State Department won't hand over a single document to explain its own role and its own behavior during this scandal, this is why. This is an example of why. Okay. One of the mysteries that still lingers from the Ukraine scandal is about that smear campaign that was carried out against the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. And that smear campaign, of course, was aimed at getting her removed from the embassy, removed from her post. Ultimately, she was removed, of course. She was told to get on the next plane out. She got a call at 1 a.m, saying, your security is at risk. Get on the next plane out. That was in late April. Her departure was announced by the State Department shortly thereafter in terms that said that it was, normal and long planned when it was actually anything but. But in addition to lying about the circumstances of her departure, one question that has always nagged about the State Department and the role of Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is why the smear campaign was necessary. After all, if Marie Yovanovitch was in the way of the president's pressure campaign to get the Ukrainian government to help him with his re-election effort, or if the president was unhappy with her for any other reason for that matter, either made up or real, well, he's the president. He could just fire her. He could just have her recalled from her post. Why did they have to go through this public, humiliating drama? Well, in my interview with Lev Parnas, Mr. Parnas told me that President Trump tried to fire Ambassador Yovanovitch several times, and it, for some reason, didn't work.
The president kept firing her, and she wouldn't leave. So nobody could understand what was going on.
Public information, she was removed at the time that she was removed. She was back in the United States at the end of April. You're saying that the president tried to fire her before then?
He fired her probably, at least, to my knowledge, at least 4 or 5 times. To different. He even had a breakdown and screamed, fire her, to Madeline, his assistant, to secretary, before he fired her. And she said, Mr. President, I can't do that.
He was directing the State Department to remove her, and the State Department was refusing?
Correct.
But the basis of your belief that the president had tried to remove Ambassador Yovanovitch multiple times, and it, for some reason, didn't work, is because you talked to the president about that?
About firing her, I spoke to the president once about that. Once or twice. Once directly at our dinner, when he fired her actually at the dinner, which was the most surprising thing ever.
Tell me more.
Basically, at that dinner, we had a conversation. There was like 6 of us there. It was an intimate dinner. And
at the White House?
It was at the Trump Hotel, but it was at the private area there. It looks like a little White House.
And the president was there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the president was there. His son Don Jr. was there. I don't know how the conversation came up, but I do remember me telling the president that the ambassador was bad-mouthing him and saying that he was going to get impeached, something to that effect. And at that point, he turned around to John DeStefano, who was his aide at the time, and said, fire her. And there was a silence in the room. And he responded to him and said, Mr. President, we can't do that right now because Pompeo hasn't been confirmed yet. Pompeo is not confirmed yet, and we don't have, this is when Tillerson was gone, but Pompeo wasn't confirmed. So they go, we'll wait till they say we'll go. So several conversations, he mentioned it again. I don't know how many times at that dinner, once or twice or 3 times, but he fired her several times.
He reiterated that she should be fired and that he was ordering her to be fired.
Correct.
Now, a couple of things here. First, we should say that Lev Parnas told me in this interview that he no longer actually himself believes that Marie Yovanovitch, as ambassador, actually was bad-mouthing President Trump or saying he was going to be impeached. He now says he recognizes that was part of a disinformation campaign. He regrets participating in it, even though he believed it at the time. He apologized to the ambassador in my interview with him. We aired that last night. He says he regrets believing those things about her and participating in the effort to get her fired. The other thing to note here, though, is that the meeting that Mr. Parnas is describing, he says took place on April 30th, 2018. And from what he's describing about where the meeting happened and who was at that meeting, we believe that there was a meeting of that type on April 30th, 2018, at the location that Mr. Parnas is describing. On April 30th, 2018, Mike Pompeo had, in fact, been Senate confirmed just a few days before. Mike Pompeo, however, had not yet been sworn in officially as Secretary of State. So perhaps that was the source of confusion, saying we can't do it yet. Mr. Pompeo isn't formally in place yet. We don't know. But aside from that detail, I think you would take from Mr. Parnas' account there that there was perhaps an expectation in the White House, perhaps an expectation around the president, that once Mike Pompeo was fully in charge at the State Department, once Trump had his guy in there as Secretary of State, Ambassador Yovanovitch would be fired. In the end, it would be another year before that actually happened.
But that was not the only time he fired her, because he fired her at least four other occasions that Rudy Giuliani went to the White House, had conversations with him, and then came back and then informed me, Victoria, and Joe about what transpired. He fired her when he gave an order to Mike Pompeo once, which he didn't do. Secretary Pompeo didn't fire her. Then Rudy came back and he told him, go speak to Pompeo. Rudy went to speak to Pompeo. They got into it. Then they had another meeting at the White House where he told Bolton to fire her. Bolton didn't want to fire her, told Pompeo to fire her. Rudy got into it with all of them again. And then at one point he told Maddow to fire her. So, I mean, and that was becoming comical because I couldn't understand you're the president. And that's one of the things, when I say comical, it's now more comical. But at that point, it was more of affirmation to me that there was people against the president of the United States if they're not listening to his orders. So, and that's where I think the smear campaign started coming about. I think it was like a boost to them to help him if the media started like egging him on, like, that there was really something there, that then he would just tweet and fire her.
They couldn't get it done through normal channels, even with the president himself being involved in those somewhat normal channels. And so they started the smear campaign to try to create media agitation against Ambassador Yovanovitch, and maybe that would make it possible for the president to evade or elide direct channels and do it with the support of the conservative media who would advance these claims. I mean, this is fascinating, right? According to Lev Parnas, the smear campaign against Marie Yovanovitch was not meant to convince President Trump that she was bad. He was already on board with that. Happy to believe that. The smear campaign against the ambassador was meant to help his efforts to fire her. You know, maybe get him so riled up he would fire her by tweet, make it public that way instead of just yelling it out to random people at random meetings and dinners. But this narrative also presents us with a sort of mixed, complicated picture of Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in this scandal. I mean, on the one hand, Secretary Pompeo refused to support Ambassador Yovanovitch publicly when she was being attacked as part of the smear campaign. And it was his office that ultimately removed her from her post, with no evidence that he actually believed or that the State Department actually had any substantial reason, any real reason to get her out. We also know that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was in contact with Rudy Giuliani, who was running the whole Ukraine operation, including the Yovanovitch smear campaign, including when Lev Parnas, who was inseparable from Rudy Giuliani, was exchanging alarming text messages with a Republican congressional candidate who purported to have Ambassador Yovanovitch under physical surveillance and appeared to be raising the prospect of some physical harm or intimidation being carried out against her. I should also mention that the material Lev Parnas turned over to the Intelligence Committee includes, in the latest batch released last night, these text messages involving Rudy Giuliani and Victoria Tensing, a Fox News lawyer working with Giuliani and Parnas in their scheme to get Yovanovitch fired. In these texts, about 3 months before Yovanovitch was finally recalled, Tensing asks Giuliani, quote, "Is there absolute commitment for her, all caps, her, meaning Yovanovitch, to be gone this week?" Giuliani responds, quote, "Yes, not sure how absolute. We'll get a reading in the morning and call you." Pompeo, it's misspelled Pompey, Pompeo is now aware of it. Talk to him on Friday. The next month, the conservative journalist John Solomon wrote to Lev Parnas and Victoria Tensing and her husband, Joe DeGeneva, saying that he, John Solomon, needed State Department help on, quote, Hunter Biden contacts. What State Department help did John Solomon expect to get, and why did he think Lev Parnas and friends could get it for him? Is that how the State Department runs? I mean, all of that points to Mike Pompeo's State Department being an ally, being sort of part of the team for President Trump and his associates on the Ukraine scheme. But it's unclear. I mean, you also have Lev Parnas describing Mike Pompeo as ostensibly blocking the firing of Marie Yovanovitch at several points. As late as September of last year, when National Security Advisor John Bolton left the White House just as the Ukraine scheme was being exposed, texts from Mr. Parnas suggested that Mike Pompeo was not in good standing with this group. Parnas writing to a friend, quote, "Bolton is out. Pompeo is next." With a mixed, contradictory picture like that, I have a lot of questions for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. I imagine impeachment investigators do, too. We reached out to the State Department for comment both last night and tonight. We haven't heard back. We'll let you know if that changes. But as the president's trial on this scandal gets underway in the Senate, a key question about the conduct of the trial is whether Secretary Pompeo will be called under oath to answer questions about what really is his very, very murky role in all of this. We'll be right back. The Government Accountability Office, the GAO, is the independent and nonpartisan federal agency tasked with helping Congress with investigations. In November, the GAO announced that it would analyze whether the Trump administration broke any laws when they decided to withhold $400 million in military aid to Ukraine as part of this effort to pressure Ukraine into announcing investigations into Joe Biden. Well, now today, on the same day that senators officially took their oaths in the Senate impeachment trial of President Trump, the GAO released its decision, and they found that, yes, the Trump administration did break the law when they withheld that money. The finding says in part, quote, "Faithful execution of the law does not permit the president to substitute his own policy priorities for those that Congress has enacted into law. OMB withheld funds for a policy reason, which is not permitted under the Impoundment Control Act. The withholding was not a programmatic delay. We therefore conclude that OMB violated the law." You may remember one of the impeachment witnesses, Mark Sandy, testified that two officials at OMB resigned during this scandal, in part because of their concerns about whether holding up these funds to Ukraine was illegal. It seems their concerns were justified. I'd love to hear from them. It also means that the Republican talking point that no criminal laws were broken in this impeachment scandal, that is well and truly dead, or it should be. More ahead. Stay with us.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons are commanded to keep silent on pain of imprisonment while the House of Representatives is exhibiting to the Senate of the United States articles of impeachment against Donald John Trump, President of the United States.
Senate Sergeant at Arms today warning members of the Senate that if they break with decorum during the impeachment trial of the president by speaking, they could face imprisonment. The oaths and the rules and the ceremonial opening of the impeachment trial were today. On Saturday, House impeachment managers will have until 5 p.m. Eastern to file their trial brief. On Monday, we could see a further exchange of briefs, basically responses between the House and the president. On Tuesday next week, the trial will start in earnest at 1 p.m. Eastern. You should clear your calendar now. Call in sick ahead of time.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube.
Hey,
If you wanna
folks,
keep
so
up to
good.
date-
I'll post this back there. So, I mean, I hope you guys got a chance to really go back to see what was really going on, what was happening, and where we are today, and how it all intertwines. What we're going to do is, first of all, I want to say I want to take some from for those of you that are joining late. I'm going to be putting it out there later on for all of you to be able to replay it. I want this to, watch it, rewatch it, send it to a friend. Very important. There's so much information in here. There's so much things that you could take out and you could see of how they will link to things that are happening now. It will help you also, for people that, there's a lot of, it's been a decade, folks. It's been so many people really don't know what's going on. They read the headlines, they go Google you, they think they really don't know. And that's why, the documentary is important. That's why this interview is important. I'll tell you why this interview is more important probably than the documentary, because why? I'll tell you. When I did this interview, I was literally I had none of my electronics, none of my telephones. So every time I would tell her, it had to be from memory, and if I lied or something, if they would have prosecuted me. Second of all, this was before the dinner tape leaked. A lot of you have never heard the dinner tape. I'm going to put together also. It's about an hour and a half tape. I'm going to try to cut it down, have somebody, maybe Nick will work with it if Nick is still here, and try to give you the highlights of the dinner tape that my partner Igor at the time taped, which later came out and validated everything that I was saying. Everything that also on this interview that I've said over the years have been validated, confirmed through records, through statements, through Bolton, through Pompeo's, through their interactions. So I want to make it very clear. The other thing I want to say that it was so important, and this is why I keep saying that the Democrats let us down, folks. And I'm not saying it to be able to divide. I'm saying it to unite, is because this came out. If you listen to what Rachel said to you guys, this was on the day, the most historic day in the United States, on the day when the Senate was getting together to, the trial was starting on for Donald Trump's impeachment. And on that day is when Rachel played the second part of our interview, which was so important because of the things that was being said and the things that were already documented. And some of the most important things that was said then is that if you think about it, back then, Donald Trump got away with a lot of crazy stuff. We got away with a lot of crazy stuff, but there were barriers. There were still, no matter how Pompeo was on our side, no matter how certain people like Bolton played along, they still were barriers. We weren't able to get out. Today, there is no barriers. Today, there is no Pompeo. No matter how bad or good Pompeo was, today you got Marco Rubio that sold the soul. Today, there is no Bill Barr. As bad as Bill Barr was, Bill Barr, at least, thank God, did not allow him to proceed with his insurrection. Today, you have Todd Blanche that is now basically indicting AG and Carroll and is planning to possibly indict the previous president of the United States. Today, you have DNA people that are in the DNI and people in special prosecutors like Joe DiGenova that you heard how many times. Think about, did you hear his name, Joe DiGenova, and at what points basically being involved in everything that was going on. So I want to do this instead of doing a Q&A right after, because I think there's a lot to digest here. What we're going to do is I'm going to put this out. I want you guys to pass it along as much as everywhere you can. Tomorrow, we'll do a Q&A. I'll do a longer Q&A to be able, and we'll be go over all these questions, and we'll be able to go over anything you want to see how it links together. And I think it's extremely important on the verge right now of Todd Blanche trying to be confirmed. We need to make sure that we get this information and part of this to the Senate, get the media, get the pundits. People need to remember, go back in history a little bit, because we're so running so forward. And that's part of Trump's MO. We need to stop for a second. We need to go back and we need to say, wait a second. This is what you did. This is the same routine. This is how it's going on. This is what's happening. That's why I say we don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's what I'm saying to you. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We know what's going on. They're not changing it. Especially, I talk about every day with my sources, everything. Nothing's changed. It's just different players, different ways. And that's why it's important to watch what I say. Keep your blinders on and watch what I'm talking about. But anyway, folks, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. For those of you that have been here from the beginning, for those of you that have joined late, again, you'll be able to come back, watch whenever you want. I apologize. I know I promised you on the Q&A today, but I have my daughter and my kids came over. We're going to go I have to go do barbecue for them. They want Dad to go throw some hamburgers on the grill, so I promised them. And also, I think it's good for you guys to really get to digest it, to be able to, so tomorrow we could have a real good Q&A question. I'll bring some of you up. So if you haven't yet become a paid subscriber, this way, when we do our Q&A, you could come up. We could talk about Smokey Joe. I'm going to figure it out. If you guys have a better time, afternoon, probably sometime like 3, 4, 5 o'clock Eastern time, if that works for you guys. If not, throw it in the chat, and let me know if there's a better time. I'll try to coordinate because it's for you guys. I want to do it. And also, there's one more thing I'm putting together besides the special for you guys, because I think it's important that all this information, especially now before the elections, comes out, because they are going to be doing all of this campaigns, disinformation campaigns. We're going to listen to that, do a coalition, corroborate, or whatever that's called, of the some of the videos that I have that never before seen, and also we're going to do my testimony in Congress during the Joe Biden impeachment. A lot of people forgot it. A lot of people didn't see it. A lot of people is skimmed by. We're going to also have it put together. It's about 45 minutes out of the 8 hours I was there. Extremely, extremely important. Yeah, guys, I'll do it after I'll try to coordinate so I don't interfere with any of the favorite shows we have, like the Substack, the Five Stack, and any of the other, if there's any special. So I'll see tomorrow what the scheduling is of other shows, and I'll try to coordinate it around, so this way we have some time, so you guys aren't, you don't have to pick between the stuff, so we could have some time together. I'll take a look at that, but we'll definitely do it in the afternoon. But yeah, definitely wanted to let you know. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day for the rest of the evening, whatever's left of it. Enjoy dinner. I'm going to go spend some time with my family, with my kids, and I will see you tomorrow. We have a lot to go over. I have a special on this because you're going to really, I want to see this tomorrow, when we're going to do the third part of the special, which is going to be my congressional hearing. You're going to see what I testified under oath, because this is important. So everything till now, you've seen on video, you've seen a documentary, you've seen me speak in front of Rachel Maddow, you've seen all of that. Extremely important, because these are, for them to be able to air that, they did extensive information, research, to be able to put that out there. But next, what you're going to see tomorrow is me testifying under oath in front of a hostile congressional committee: James Comer, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're going to see me in front of all of them. You're going to see me testify. You're going to see tomorrow, and that's important, because they always say testify under oath. Well, you're going to see all of this. Everything is documented, and that's why it's important that we keep spreading it. Anyway, enough of me. Have a great night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night. Take care.